What is up, everyone? Please take a second to hit that like button. The more likes that we get in a short period of time, the more people the algorithm will bring into the chat to come hang out with us and see what's going on. So please hit that like button and let me know how you're doing. What's up, cats lovers? What's up, High Plains Drifter? What's up, Pallet Wood? Yesterday was a shit show anyways. It was I was getting kicked off like over and over again. Hopefully today's not like that. What's up, Mana? What's up, Douglas? What's up, Fire? Just so you guys know, the video is not muted on my end. That's on their end. What's up, Spectre Matrix? Oh, I don't know what she's doing. I was sitting here wondering what kind of tea she's drinking. What's up, Indigo? What's up, little Eddie? What's up, Jay? What's up, Elisa? What's up, Tin Man? What's up, Wild Turkey? I'm doing pretty good. I hope you are too. What's up, Mercy Rain? They better turn this mic on, or we're gonna have to switch live feeds.
No, instead of shaking your head. Okay, please don't.
Oh, there we go. Right when I say so. See, that's how it works. What's up, fans guy?
Okay. If you don't understand a question, let the lawyer know. And if an objection is made, you need to stop talking immediately.
Okay.
And don't answer the question unless I tell you to.
Okay.
Only one person can speak at a time, so please wait until the question is finished before you start answering.
Okay.
All right. Counsel?
What's up, Parabellum?
Good morning, Ms. Albrecht Payton.
Good morning.
They're like soft talking each other.
Okay.
What's up, Gang of Four?
I can be trying to be. Yeah.
I understand. We'll take it slow. Try to talk directly into the microphone if you can.
Okay.
And if it's more comfortable for you to take the mask off, that's okay. Whatever makes you comfortable, all right?
Yeah.
But we'll just take it step by step.
Okay.
I'm going to start with some questions about your background.
Okay.
Can you tell the jury how old you are?
I am 20 years old.
And what city do you live in?
I live in St. Paul, Minnesota.
How far do you go in school?
12th grade.
And are you working right now?
Yeah, I am.
And what do you do for work?
I work at a gas station.
And
Sorry, I work at a gas station.
thank you.
If he keeps doing that, we're gonna switch the live feed.
Dante Wright.
Okay, I'm gonna start looking for another live feed.
A relationship with Dante Wright?
Yes.
And what type of relationship was that?
It was just like a beginning like of a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship.
And you said it was the beginning of a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Had you just gotten to know him or meet him recently?
Yeah.
And when I say recently, that was shortly before April 11th of this year.
Yes.
About how long before that had you met him?
We've talked for about like 2-3 weeks.
So you were just beginning this relationship.
Yes.
So you didn't have an order for protection or any court order against him, did you?
No.
You were just meeting him and just getting to know him, is that right?
Exactly.
So I'm going to direct your attention to April 11th of this year, all right? And I'm going to ask you some questions about that day. Had Dante Wright stayed at your place the night before April 11th?
I believe so, yeah.
And at some point on April 11th, did you go with him to his parents' house?
Yes, I did.
Did you wait in the car when he went inside?
Yes, I did.
And was there anyone else in the car with you at that time?
No, there was not.
And what car was it that you were in with him?
It was a white car. I'm not familiar with like car brands or names.
Was it Dante's car?
It was Dante's car.
And then after you waited in the car, did you leave with him in that car from his parents' house?
Yes.
And who was driving?
Dante was driving.
And where were you sitting?
I was in the passenger seat.
And that's the front passenger seat?
Yes.
Now, at some point while you were driving in that white car with Dante Wright, did you get pulled over by the police?
Yes, we did.
Did you learn why you were pulled over?
Like it was multiple reasons. Like it was the air fresheners and the tabs and the warrant.
And did you hear Dante Wright interact with the police when you guys were pulled over?
Yeah, like kind of. I remember mostly him just talking on the phone with his mom and them just telling me to hang up.
Okay. So was there a point in time where the officer who had pulled you over stepped away from the white car that you were in?
Yes.
And then did the officers come back at some point?
Yes.
Now, in that car that you were in, this white car, was there a gun in that car or any weapon of any kind?
No.
After that, Your Honor, lack of foundation. Should we know that?
I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
Yes, please.
Do you know if there was a gun or a weapon of any kind in that car?
No.
So there was no weapon in that car.
No, there was not.
Do you know if Dante had a gun or a weapon on his body, or that he was carrying a gun that day?
He was not.
Okay. So at some point you said the officer left, walked away, and then came back to that white car that you were in. What happened when the officers came back to that white car?
When they came back, from what I can remember, he just kept asking them, like they would ask him to step out the car, and he kept asking them, like, why? Like, why do you want me to step out the car? He kept asking what he did, and they
Okay, I'm gonna switch to live feed. These people have too many problems. It was clearer, that's why I chose it, but I'm not gonna deal with all this.
And how
Just
were
give me a
you
moment.
feeling while this was going on?
I'm really nervous and scared. I don't really have a good past with police, so every time I encounter, I just get nervous.
So you were nervous and scared. How was Dante behaving? How did he appear to be feeling during that interaction?
He was really scared. Like, I've never seen him like that before. Because, if you know Dante like this, it's just really happy, it's positive, and you can't really be like sad or depressed or angry or mad around him. And like, he was just like this. If you know Dante like this, it's just really happy, it's positive, and you can't really be like sad or depressed or angry or mad around him. And like, he was just like, just so nervous and flustered, and I could tell he was just scared, and he just,
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to stop you right there for just 1 sec. Take your time. If you need a tissue, go ahead. So it sounds like you're describing Dante as being nervous and scared. And take a deep breath. We'll take it slow. But I'm going to ask you to describe for the jury, when you said that the police asked Dante to step out of the car, what happened next?
When he stepped out of the car, I don't remember too much of the scuffling. I mean, I've seen the video footage, you know, when it first came out, like months ago, but like memory-wise, I don't remember the scuffling. I just remember after.
So you said you remember after, and you had described just before this that you said that they asked him to put down the phone,
Yeah.
something like that. What do you remember about that?
Like, cause his mom, he was trying to ask her if like he had any warrants or if he was in trouble, and she kept telling him no.
All right, 1 second. I'm just going to stop you right there.
Alright.
When he was stepping out of the car,
Yeah.
what do you remember happening with that phone? Did he have a phone in his hand?
Oh no, they kept telling him to put it down and put it down, and he dropped it so
Okay.
he can get out. And
So he put down the phone to get out of the car.
yeah,
Did he then get out of the car?
yes.
And then you said you didn't remember much of the scuffling. What do you remember happening next?
I just remember like hearing like just like the boom, the bang of the gun, and then I remember just looking up and seeing like another white car, just like coming directly towards us. Like I remember lifting up my head real quick and just boom, and I can't tell if it was before or after, but I just remember like trying to just get him up. Like I was the only one who out of everybody there. I was trying to help him. And I was trying to push on his chest and call his name. And he wasn't answering me. He was just gasping. Like just take breaths of air. So and then I just remember being walked out of like a car and being escorted.
Hang on 1 second. I'm going to stop you right there.
Sorry.
I know it's tough, so just take a minute, and we'll just take it piece by piece, okay?
Okay.
So it sounds like you said you remember seeing a car, another car. Is that what you were describing? That you
Yeah.
saw another car? And then you said you were pressing on his chest. Is that what you
Like
said?
his like stomach area, like probably like right here. I
Okay.
didn't know exactly where he got shot, so.
Okay, so let's just take that part step by step.
Okay.
So you said you remember hearing a bang or something like that. And then after that, you saw another car. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you looking at Dante at that point?
Yeah.
And so what did you see when you looked at Dante Wright?
It just really happened like fast. Like I remember just looking at, it wasn't really him, but like it was kind of like him, but like the floor, like I could see like his hands were on the wheel, and that's why I was confused. And then I looked up at the car.
And you looked up and you saw a car. What happened at that point when you saw the car?
We hit the car.
So the car crashed. Is that right?
Yes.
And then what did you do? You were describing you were putting your hands on Dante, on Mr. Wright. Can you describe that part, please?
I was. I know I took my belt off and I grabbed like whatever was in the car. I don't remember if it was a sweater, a towel, or a blanket or something. I just grabbed whatever it was and put it on his chest, like you see in movies and TV shows. I didn't know what to do, so I just put my hands over his chest and I just tried to hold it, and I was just trying to scream his name, and I was just trying to have him talk to me, and just kept saying Dante, like just say something, please, like just talk to me. And he just couldn't. Like I know he tried, like I know he wanted to, because I replay that image in my head daily. It's like,
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there for just 1 second. Take a breath. If you need a tissue, feel free. And if you need a break, you just let me know. All right?
okay.
You said that you were pushing on his chest because you had seen something like that on TV. Were you trying to stop the bleeding?
Yeah.
And you were trying to talk to him at that point. Is that right? What was he doing? Was he...
He was just like, I don't want to like demonstrate like how he was, but he just had his arms folded kind of, and he's just like just gasping, just like he just wasn't saying anything.
So he
I was trying to get him to like say a word at least or something, so I knew he had a chance of being okay, but he just wasn't saying anything.
So
But he was alive, so I didn't think he was alive.
Okay, so you're describing that he was gasping. You were trying to get him to respond to you,
Yeah.
but he couldn't say any words. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you were trying to put pressure on him. Is that right?
Yes.
At some point, did that stop? The gasping stop and the moving stop?
I don't remember. I think I was pulled out of the car. I don't recall.
Okay. But the car that you were in came to a stop at some point. Is that right?
Yes.
And how was Dante, Mr. Wright, how was he positioned in the car? Was he leaning back or leaning forward? Do you remember?
He was leaning back. It was like this. That's what I remember.
Okay.
He was leaning back.
And at no point, at any point, were you able to get him to respond to you or move or get up?
Unfortunately, no, I was not.
Okay. Now, while you were in that car with Dante, with Mr. Wright, was there another call? Was there a video call that came through?
Yeah.
Tell the jury about that.
It was his mom.
And what happened during that call?
It was a video call. She was asking what happened, and I know I was just delirious. I was just screaming like they just shot him. They shot him. And then I pointed the camera on him, and I was so sorry. And I did that because I was sorry.
Okay, we'll take a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I just pointed the camera at him. I was just in shock, and I apologize, but yeah.
Okay, hang on right there just so I make sure that I'm clear about what you're saying.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. Take a deep breath. You said that you pointed the camera at him,
Yeah.
and it was his mom on the phone.
Yes.
And you were saying you were just sorry that you did that?
Yes.
And why are you sorry that you did that?
Because no, mom should have to see that your son dead on her phone, on a video call. Just out of nowhere, like, I know how my mom felt when she couldn't find me for hours afterwards. So I just know that I hurt her by doing that. And I apologize, Katie.
Okay. So I hear you saying that no mom should see her son dead on the phone, and you know that that hurt her, and you apologize for that?
Yeah, just that period, but yeah.
All right. Take a moment. After that call, was that when you got out of the car?
I don't recall. I do remember getting out of the car at some point, though.
Okay. Your Honor, at this point, I would offer Exhibits 166 and 167. I don't believe there's any objection.
Could you identify the exhibits?
Those are
please?
photographs of the white Buick.
Is there an objection to those exhibits? Those exhibits will be admitted into evidence and you may publish.
Thank you. We'll start with 160. Actually, could we put 166 and 167 next to each other on the screen, please? All right, I'm putting on this screen Exhibits 166 and 167. Is that the white car that you were in?
Yes.
And in Exhibit 167, there's a close-up of some damage to the windshield that I just circled. Is that the side of the car that you were on?
Yes.
And did you sustain some injuries as a result of all this?
I did.
And we'll get into those a little bit later, but do you believe that the injuries that you sustained were related to this crash?
I do.
Okay. You said that you got out of the car. At this point, Your Honor, I would offer Exhibit 29, which is the video of Ms. Albrecht Payton walking out of the car.
Any objection to Exhibit 29?
Previous objection is
Okay. Exhibit 29 will be admitted over defense objection, which I overruled.
All right, and we will publish that now, please.
For everyone asking questions, we'll do a recap when they take a break.
Just keep your hands out of your pockets. Okay, come back here. Come back here. Okay. Over here. Over here. Just don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Who else is in the car? Huh? Nobody? Okay, just drop it. Just let it go. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I got it. I got it, ma'am. I will give it to you. Okay, put your hands behind your back. You're not under arrest. Just put your hands behind your back. Okay? You're not under arrest.
You guys see her Sprite? You see how dark it is?
I don't know what's going on.
I wonder if she's got lean in her Sprite.
Okay. Who else is in the car now?
I'm trying to think of another word for lean. That's just what they call it on the street.
Who? Him? Who's him? Dante? Does he have a gun or anything? No? It's just you and Dante. Okay. Just one other person inside. All right. You want to search her and stuff? Okay. Huh? Just.
Were you explaining to the officer at that point that there was no one else in the car other than you and Dante?
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about your injuries. How were you feeling at this point when you were coming out of that car?
I couldn't really feel anything. I just remember my jaw, like I just remember walking and my blood was just spilling from my mouth.
And did paramedics take you to the hospital after that?
Yes. I was told not right away, but yes.
And what were the injuries that you learned about that you had? You learned after the fact what your injuries were. What were those injuries?
I had a lacerated lip, so I have a scar. I had stitches. It went all the way through. I don't know what happened, but the hole all the way through my lip. Stitches in my ear and a fractured jaw. I had wires on my jaw for about 6 weeks, maybe a little more. And I sustained like a concussion, and yeah.
So you said you had a laceration, a concussion, a broken jaw, and that your broken jaw was wired shut for some period of time. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you have to have surgery as well?
I did.
At this point, Your Honor, I would offer Exhibits 30 and 31. Those are the photos of the injuries.
Okay. 30 and 31 will be admitted over defense objection.
And we would publish Exhibit 30 at this time. All right, I've put on the screen Exhibit 30. Can you just describe what's shown here?
That is my left ear.
Sorry, you said that you had to have something done to your left ear. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that is my left lacerated ear. So they had to stitch somewhere in, like,
I know what they have on the screen is not very graphic, but I'm not going to risk it.
I think it stitches, like, right here in that area.
Okay. And then we'll publish Exhibit 31, please. What's shown in Exhibit 31?
That's my jaw. It's my lip too. Where I believe I probably fit it or something. I don't know, but that's the gigantic hole.
So you said you had a hole in your lip and a broken jaw.
Yeah.
Is this what you looked like the day of this incident on April 11th?
Yes.
Have you had long-term impacts from that broken jaw or the injuries that you suffered?
Yeah.
Can you describe what that has been like to the jury, please?
So my jaw, it's weird. It's this way, so I've had to get used to a whole new jaw. As you can see, like when I open my mouth or whatever, it goes to a certain way. And just like when I sleep, just weird, like it's hard to explain it. My teeth would just not be aligned, and it'll feel like I'm biting just hard a lot. So it's different, but.
Did you have pain for quite some time?
Said what? Sorry.
Did you experience pain for a while?
Yes.
And were you given pain medications both on this day and afterward to treat your pain?
No, just once after my surgery.
After your surgery?
Yes.
Okay. But the paramedics, did they also treat you on your way?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
What's up, little cross?
Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How would you like me to address you? Miss Payton, is that?
Yes, whatever is easiest for you to pronounce, yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask you just a few questions about this incident. Do you remember when Mr. Wright was getting out of the car that he was hesitant?
When he was getting out of the car, no.
Yeah. Do you remember saying to him, just do it, just go, when the officers asked him to get out of the car?
No, I do not remember.
Have you looked at the video of this incident?
Not the full one, no.
Excuse me?
Not the full one, no.
Well, did you look at the video of the...
The ones that, sorry.
Just let me finish the question.
Yeah, sorry.
Have you looked at the video of the one where Officer Lucky was telling him to get out of the car, and he was asking why? Did you see that one?
No.
Okay. What video did you look at?
The ones that they published for, like, the world, like on YouTube, the news, just the ones where he was out of the car already being handcuffed.
So you did not see him going back into the car?
Well, yes, that's the video.
Okay. And let's back up a little. You testified that you had known Mr. Wright for how long?
About 2-3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
when did you first start dating him?
We were never really official because we didn't get the chance to.
Well, he stayed at your house the night before.
Yeah.
How long had he stayed at your house prior to the incident?
Just a couple nights, not too many though, but he did stay with me.
Okay. And when did you first date him? Like you went out, you met him. Did you meet him on social media?
Yes.
Okay. When did you first meet him personally?
When I first met him personally,
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact date, but it was in probably the beginning, not the beginning, the end of March, in that area, and then, yeah. Because if we're talking for 2 to 3 weeks, and then, yeah.
Do you remember what you did the first time you met him?
Yes.
What did you do?
We hung out.
What do you mean by hung out?
Objection, Your Honor. Sorry.
Interesting. So for everyone asking, this is the Kim Potter trial. Kim Potter is an officer. Her and another officer were riding together. Had a traffic stop. The driver had a warrant for armed robbery or armed something that had to do with a pew-pew. They tried to detain him. There was a little bit of resistance. The officer, Kim Potter, says taser, 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 but then draws her pew-pew and shoots Dante, which is the driver, and kills him. After he was shot, the car had moved forward, went up the street, crossed the median, hit another car head on. That was how this witness got injuries. It's also why the vehicle was smashed up. But Dante did die from the shooting, not the car accident. And basically they're trying to determine, was it done on purpose? Was it done out of negligence? Is this poor training? Is this whatever? That's what they're on trial to figure out. What's up, Stevie O?
All right, the objection is granted in part and denied in part.
You stayed at your house that evening before April 11th, correct? And when you woke up in the morning, do you remember what time you woke up?
No, but it was like early, I think.
Excuse
I
me?
believe we woke up early, like around 10.
10 o'clock
Yeah,
in the morning?
I believe so.
Okay, and did Dante wake up at that time also?
I believe so, yeah. If one of us is up, the other is also up.
All right, and that was about 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
And do you know whether or not Dante Wright had smoked marijuana that morning?
Yes.
And did he?
Yes.
And was that right after he got up?
I'm not too sure, but I believe so.
Okay. May I have a moment, Your Honor, to make sure I have this, your mandate correct?
Israel Jason says the warrant was for possession of a handgun without a permit and running from the police. I know it has something to do with having a pew-pew, that's all I know.
When Dante Wright was smoking the marijuana, was that in your home?
Yes.
And were you smoking marijuana too?
Yes.
And I believe the evidence previously was that he, and I might be incorrect on this, that he arrived at his mother's house at about 11.
Yeah.
So, and if you got up at approximately 10 o'clock in the morning, you and him smoked some marijuana before he went out to his mother's, correct?
So, I wasn't sure about the 10, but it was just an estimate, but yes.
Okay. And on the way out there, did you smoke any marijuana in his automobile?
No.
It was just in your house?
Yeah. Well, on the way to his mother's house, yes.
Okay.
No, we didn't smoke in. Like, it was in my house, but on the way to his mother's house, no, not in the car.
Okay, but you smoked it at your mother's house.
Oh, sorry, yes.
And was it one joint, or did you smoke two joints, or did you? One? Did
Yeah.
you split it?
We had together. We smoked it together, yes.
You ever split a joint before?
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. Irrelevant.
The objection is sustained.
Okay. And did you, after smoking this marijuana, feel that it had affected you at all?
No, Your Honor. Well, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to say that.
But thank you.
No, not any
Okay.
disabling effects, no.
You had observed Mr. Wright prior to this for at least a week or two. Could you tell whether or not the marijuana that he had smoked had affected him at all?
It did not.
You could tell that.
Yeah. Yes.
And why were you going out to his mother's? Do you remember that?
He just wanted to go see his mom. I don't remember specifically what the reason was. We were always together, so.
Did you meet his mom prior to that time at all?
Not personally, no.
And you stayed in the vehicle
Yes.
while he went in the house that morning, correct?
Yes.
And why was that?
Because, I've never seen his son or his mom, so, I just stayed in the car. I didn't want to intrude.
Okay. He didn't want to introduce you to his mom?
Intrude. I didn't want to intrude.
Intrude?
Yes.
And you had 2 phones that day, fair statement?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have to answer yes or
So
no.
sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
So sorry.
And one phone was for you,
Yes.
and I'm not quite sure I understand what the other phone was used for.
So what the other phone was used for, it was just both my phones. Like they were just phones.
Okay,
Yeah. Like
why did you have 2 phones?
I just had 2 phones.
No real reason?
Yeah, I didn't use them for specific reasons. I just had 2 of them.
And Dante did not have a phone that morning?
He did have a phone.
Okay, well, when he called his mother, he used your phone, correct?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Because his phone wasn't working. I gave him my Xfinity Wi-Fi.
Now, after, we'll withdraw that question. I believe he testified, and I apologize if I didn't quite catch it right, because it was, besides being old and hard of hearing a little bit,
Yeah.
I couldn't understand what you're saying because you're crying.
Yeah.
But I believe you said that Dante drove down the road after he was shot. Is that right?
He did not drive down the road. His hands were not on the wheel. His foot was on the gas.
Well, was his hands on the wheel in the beginning?
His hands were never on the wheel.
And how do you remember that specifically?
I remember that specifically.
Okay, and did he turn on the vehicle?
The vehicle was never off.
Are you sure of that?
I don't think it was, because how would it have just started if it was never...
She sounds like she's on something. Well, and that look on her face also kind of says that too, in my opinion.
So, do you remember specifically whether or not the vehicle was on or off?
I do not.
Your Honor, I'm cross-examining the witness.
All right, excuse me. You may answer.
I do not recall specifically.
Okay, thank you. And the injuries you received, which were serious, right,
Yes.
were caused by the car accident.
Yes.
You didn't receive any injuries from any other incident, correct?
No.
And you mentioned on direct examination, I believe you said that you did not have a good past with police.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I keep doing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant.
I'm going to let you answer. I mean, I think she testified to that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. My father was, he is, well, an ex-criminal. I don't know what you would call that, but we've had encounters with the law enforcement before, and most times they were never good whenever it was around my dad. So it was just growing up seeing, just negative encounters with the police.
Between your father and the police?
Yes.
Not between you and the police?
No. I was
And
too
did
young.
did you live with your father after you were 12 years old?
No.
You lived with your godmother?
I lived with my mother.
And where was that?
I lived with my mother at 12 years old. I was on the east side of St. Paul.
When this incident happened, your mother was living up north. Is that a fair statement?
That is correct.
And you're living down here with your godmother?
Correct.
And that would be in St. Paul?
Yes.
And how long had you lived with her?
I've lived with her since I was about 14.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor.
Yes.
Just a couple more questions. As far as you know, the car was never turned off. Is that right?
Object to that as leading, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
She
he asked,
already answered the question as leading.
he asked multiple times.
All
I'd like
right.
to clarify.
Okay. Counsel, you're going to have to rephrase your question.
I will rephrase. As far as your memory goes,
Yeah.
was the car off or on during the entire time?
I do not recall, but I do believe that it was on, but I do not recall.
Not responsive to the last part of that. She said she didn't remember.
Okay.
That's your testimony.
Counsel, one-word objections, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Are there parts of this incident that are difficult to recall?
Yes, there are.
And why is that?
Because I sustained a severe concussion and a little bit of a breakdown afterwards.
Was this a traumatic incident for you?
Yes.
Your boyfriend was shot right in front of you, right?
Yes.
Object to that as leading and move it be stricken, Your Honor.
Oh.
It's obviously not.
Okay, the objection is overruled. I'll let the answer stand.
Thank you, Your Honor. Based on your memory today, what was the situation with the car when you were pulled over?
Object to that as a vague question. What was the situation? I don't know. what-
Would you like to rephrase
I will
that, Counsel?
rephrase. Based on your best recollection, was the car off or on and running during your interaction with police that day?
Same objection, Your Honor. She's already asked that. I've asked it.
All right, excuse me. Counsel, could you clarify the time that you're referring to?
Sure. At the time that you were pulled over by the police with Mr. Wright, Dante, based on your recollection, was the car running? Was it still on or was it off?
It was running.
Okay. Now, at some point after the car drove off,
Yes.
you were removed, is that right?
Yes.
Are you unclear today about when exactly the car was turned off?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what you're testifying to today?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Once again, what your testimony was, or what your memory is that after, obviously, he was driving the car before he was stopped, correct?
Okay, sorry, re-say it again.
Pardon me?
Can you say it again?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was obviously driving the car before he was stopped, correct?
Yes.
And when he was stopped, the car was running, correct?
Yes.
And after the car was stopped, you don't recollect, you don't remember if the car was off or on. Fair statement?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, anything further from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Payton, you may step down. Thank you. The state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would call Patricia Lundgren to the stand.
Hello, Ms. Lundgren. Please come over by the witness stand and stand behind the witness chair. Raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully testify in connection with this case? Please have a seat. And would you please remove your mask?
Pardon?
Remove your mask. Okay. State your full name and spell it.
Patricia Lundgren, Patricia. Lundgren, Lundgren.
Okay, there's a couple of rules in testifying. The court reporter that's sitting in front of you is taking down everything that's being said. So you have to answer with a yes or a no instead of shaking your head or saying uh-huh or uh-uh. Only one person can talk at a time. Please wait until the question is finished before you start answering. If you don't understand a question, please let the lawyer know. And finally, if an objection is made, please stop talking immediately and don't answer the question unless I tell you to. All right. Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Lundgren, you might need to pull the microphone a little closer to you so that we can all hear you really well. Okay, let's try that. Thank you. Can you please tell us, how old are you currently?
Pardon?
How old are you?
I still didn't catch it.
Okay. How old are you today?
Oh, I'm 84.
And are you currently married?
Yes.
What is your husband's name?
Kenneth Lundgren,
And how old is Kenneth?
86.
And I want to take you back to April 11 of this year. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
And were you in a car crash that day?
Yes.
And were you, where were you living? What town were you living in at the time of that crash?
I was living in Brooklyn Park.
Living with Kenneth?
Pardon?
Were you living with Kenneth, your husband?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Still.
Were you living with Kenneth?
Oh, yes.
And when you got in that car crash, do you recall what kind of car you were driving?
I was driving a 2019 Subaru Outback.
And when you got in the crash, who was driving?
I was.
And was there anybody else in the car at the time?
My husband was.
And where was he in the car?
He was in the passenger side.
In the front?
In the front, yeah.
And where were you driving? Where were you traveling when you got into that crash?
I was going home.
And what street were you on?
63rd Avenue in Brooklyn Center.
Do you remember which direction you were going?
I was going west.
And do you recall if you were driving the speed limit?
Yes, I was.
And do you recall how fast that was?
30.
And as you were traveling along, what did you see before the crash? Can you tell the jurors just what happened?
Well, I did see the white car coming, let's see, east on 63rd in the other lane towards me.
And then what happened after that?
Well, all of a sudden, he just cut straight across my lane in front of me.
And did you see it hit anything before you?
Did it hit anything?
Yeah.
I didn't really see, but I don't think so.
Okay. And so, did it hit your car then?
Yes.
Can you describe for the jurors, what you saw, where it hit you, that kind of thing?
Well, when I saw the car coming in my lane, I sort of went to the right side, which is what we all do when there's emergencies. And anyway, we ended up in the same spot.
And so did the white car hit your car?
I think. I'm not really sure who hit who, but, and then I thought that I missed him, but then I was spinning around in the highway, and of course the bags were all inflated, and my husband was moaning, and I ended up in the eastbound lane, and I was surprised that no one was coming to help me, which you always see in accidents. And then I opened the door and got out. And I did not have any injuries, but my husband did.
Okay. I'm going to back up just a little bit. Before the actual crash, did you cross the center line at all?
No.
Did the other vehicle cross the center line?
Yes.
So it came into your lane?
Yes.
And do you recall where on your car that car hit you?
Well, I think it was like, our front ends met.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it more on the passenger side or your side, do you recall?
I guess it was. I'm not sure.
Okay, fair enough. So at some point, it sounds like your car came to a stop, right?
Yes.
And that's when you said nobody came to the car to help you?
Yeah. When I stopped. Yeah.
And so then, did you get out?
Yes.
And what did you notice, in the area when you got out of the car?
I don't know what I noticed. No one was right around my car. It was strange. And so then I went to the other side and helped Ken get out of his seat.
Okay. When you first got out of your car, did you see any police officers in the area?
Well, I heard the police demanding kind of that the driver in the other car get out. And I saw his, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not.
So maybe my question should have been, did you hear a police officer? It sounds like you did.
Yes,
Okay.
I did.
Now, while we're talking about this, I'm going to show you some photographs, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that yes? You have to answer yes or no.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I'm going to offer exhibits 33, 34, and 35, the photographs of the vehicle.
Any objection to 34, 35, and 36?
For the record, it's 33 through 35. That's okay.
Okay, those exhibits will be admitted into evidence.
All right. So I'm going to put exhibit 33 up on the screen. It'll show up right in front of you there, okay?
Yep.
So do you recognize the car in that photograph?
Yes.
And whose car is that?
Mine.
All right. So that's the car you were driving that day?
Right.
Okay. And then and so that's the passenger side, correct?
Yes.
And then let's go to exhibit 34. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
That's the car as well, correct?
Right.
All right. And then let's go to exhibit 35. And that's your car on the driver's side, correct?
Right.
So when you got out of the car, you got out from the driver's side, right?
Right.
And did you have to go around that airbag that seems to be there in the picture?
Yeah.
And then when you got out, if we can go back to Exhibit 34, you see some police cars in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And is that area in the background where you heard the police officer's voice yelling from?
Well, he was on the other side of the street then.
Okay. And so when you talk about that police officer yelling, that police officer was on the other side of the street.
Right.
All right. And so then, I'm sorry, if we could go back to 33, you started telling us that you, well, how did you feel when you got out of the car?
Well, I felt okay, really.
Okay. And so you went around to the passenger side, I think.
Right.
And what did you see regarding Kenneth?
Well, he couldn't open his doors, or I don't know. Anyway, he couldn't get out of the door. And I opened his door then and helped him get out of his seat.
And when you went to his side and opened the door, were the airbags inflated like they are here in Exhibit 33?
Yes, they were.
And when you say you helped Kenneth get out of the car, can you just explain for the jurors, please, what you mean by that?
Well, he really kind of didn't know where he was, and his head was hurting. The airbag, the side airbags were still inflated and really hard blowing, up. They were really tight. And I had to get him to lower his head to get out of the car.
And so you had to physically help him get out of the car?
Yes, I did.
And as you were, were you able to get him out of the car?
Yes, I was.
And then what did you do after that?
Well, then there was a policeman, what should I say, west of there. There were lots of policemen then, up, going west. And he motioned for me to come back behind his vehicle. And so we did.
And so
Do you want to earn a 75?
He motioned for me to come back behind his vehicle. And so we did.
And so
I think their live is frozen. Hold on, let me see what I can figure out.
Into evidence.
So I'm going to show you Exhibit 32. Can you tell us who are those two people?
That's me and my husband.
It appears you are standing and Kenneth is sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Behind the police car, yeah.
And so Kenneth is a little bit bigger person than you. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Pretty tall.
He was.
And so this is when you were sitting behind the police car, correct?
Yes.
And you said you waited there for a long time,
Yeah.
and eventually the two of you got checked out by an ambulance, correct?
Yes.
And did you, well, let me ask you this. Where did you go after being checked out by the ambulance?
Well, we sat in the EMT's ambulance kind of for quite a while, and I really don't know what time. But then we were taken to the police station in Brooklyn Center.
And from there, were you able to get home eventually?
Yeah, we sat at the police station, I think, for 3 hours maybe, and then they didn't have time to talk to us, and of course we didn't know why. But I'm not going to suppose. And then they did take us home about 6 o'clock.
Now, at some point, did you, the next day, seek some medical attention?
Yeah, we went to North Memorial for a checkup, and they took x-rays of Ken's chest. I'm not sure what all, they did at that time.
Yeah. How are you feeling the next day?
I really have felt just fine all the time.
But you went to the hospital because Kenneth was feeling how?
We went to the hospital because I guess we just thought that's what we should do. And we should have gone on Sunday, but we didn't.
So you went and got checked out?
Yeah,
Okay. And were you allowed to go home then?
yeah.
Prior to that day, had Kenneth been experiencing some health problems anyway?
No,
Okay.
not really.
After that accident, have you noticed a difference in Kenneth?
Yeah, great. Great. He is on hospice care now, and yeah, he has lots of problems now.
Fair to say that he had been having some cognitive problems before the crash?
I hadn't really noticed any,
Yeah.
but perhaps.
But since the crash, you have noticed?
Yeah, a lot.
And so he had to go to hospice care for a while?
He was in Covenant Living hospice care, but it's really expensive, and so we have him at home now with hospice care.
So it's not that he's in hospice care just because of the accident, would you say, or is it just he's been a lot worse since the accident?
A lot worse since the accident.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay. Counsel, you may cross.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Earl Gray. I'm one of the lawyers for Kim Potter. I'm going to ask you just a few questions, and most of them will be about your statement you gave on April 13th. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. You described in that interview that you said, man, we really hit hard, and you slapped your hand. You do that?
Yeah.
And you really were hit hard. Is that a fair
Yes.
statement?
Yes. We were.
And your car was destroyed. That fair statement?
Mm-hmm.
And you also stated if it hadn't been a Subaru in your seat belts, you and your husband would have died, correct?
Correct.
And then you asked at the end of the statement, do they have insurance? Did you ask that question? Do you remember that?
The other party, right?
Yes. Who was Dante, right? Was he the one driving the other car?
Yes.
And he's the one that hit you head on, pretty much, correct?
Right.
And you asked if he had insurance, correct? I have it.
Probably. I don't remember.
I have it in the statement. I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Is there a redirect?
Nothing further.
Okay. Thank you very much. You may step down.
What a poor old lady having to deal with everybody else's bullshit.
Okay, counsel, we're gonna, if you have a short witness,
I do, Your Honor.
okay, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We would call Denise Wells.
No tall witnesses allowed.
Ms. Wells, will you please come over to the witness stand?
Yeah, that would suck. Cruising down the street, you know, married life is hard enough. Then you got this asshole come run into your car. You're like, hey, they got insurance? No, he's dead. Oh. Well, damn. I've seen a lot of people asking who fixed your car. Here in Michigan, we got no fault insurance. You'd be fixing it yourself.
You may remove your mask. Please state your full name for the record.
Denise Lundgren Wells.
And will you spell it?
Pardon?
Please spell it.
DeNiselundgrenWells.
Okay, a couple of things to keep in mind when you're testifying. The court reporter is taking down everything that's being said, so only one person can talk at a time. Please wait until the question is finished before you start answering. Please answer with a yes or a no instead of shaking your head. Please try not to say uh-huh or because that doesn't make for a clear record. If you don't understand a question, let the lawyer know and it'll be clarified. And finally, if an objection is made, you need to stop talking immediately. I don't want you to answer the question unless I tell you to. All right, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
And if you would tell us, are you related to Patricia Lundgren, who you probably just passed in the hallway?
Yes.
How are you two related?
She's my mother.
And Ms. Wells, we ask everybody this question, but how old are you?
62.
And are you currently working?
I am retired, but also working as a reserve principal right now.
So before you retired, what did you do?
I was the principal for Minneapolis Public Schools.
How long did you work in education?
38 years.
I always like when we have witnesses who are in education because they understand the rule about and so this will be a little easier to enforce with you. But so when did you retire officially?
June 30th, 2021.
And just been doing some part-time work for the school since then?
Yep, the last couple of weeks I've been filling in as a reserve principal.
Do you recall April 11th of this year when your parents were involved in a car crash?
I do.
And how did you learn about the car crash that they were in?
Well, I was on my phone at night with a friend, and my mother called me, and I didn't pick it up right away. And so when I got off the phone, I called her. I listened to her voicemail, and her voicemail to me said, "We've been in an accident. The car is totaled. The guy died. We're tired. We're going to bed. Don't call us."
And not the kind of call a daughter wants to hear about her 80-year-old parents.
No.
Okay. So what did you do after getting that?
Well, I tried to call them, and they didn't pick up. And then I yelled at my husband and said, "You know what, I'm really worried. My parents been in an accident. Someone died. Their car's totaled. I don't know anything else." And so he got in his car and drove to their home and pounded on their door and woke them up. So just to make sure that they were okay.
And so he confirmed they were okay, at least for the night. And the next morning, did you, well, that should be a question. Did he confirm that they were okay for the night, at least?
Yes.
And did you then help your parents the next day?
I was at work, and I called them later in the morning, and they had taken themselves to the emergency room and been cleared. And then later in the day, I called them again, and they were looking through the white pages to find the phone number for the Brooklyn Center Police Department. So I got on I said, "I'll do it." And so they wanted their car. I keep doing, sorry. So I looked up the phone number and called, and then someone called me back and basically said, that your parents can't have their cars in custody of the BCA, and until they release it, your parents can't have access to their car. So I called them back and told them that.
Okay. And was there anything particular that your mom wanted about the car?
She wanted to get her coat out of the car.
Okay. And when she was trying to find the phone number for the Brooklyn Park Police Department, well, let me ask it this way. Were they eventually able to locate the car?
Back and told them that. Eventually, later, I think Tuesday, 2 days later, after they had an investigator come out and interview them from the BCA, and then their car was released. Prior to that, even though I told them they can't have their car, they were armed with the white pages and heading out to looking for tow lots to find the car, so that they were pretty determined to find the car. And, I again had to say, you can't have that. You have to wait. So.
Did you recognize something called the white pages?
Yes. I say that because nobody that I know or work with would, anyway, in this day and age, use the white pages to do just about anything. But that's what they're used to.
That's what Mom was doing to try and find the car.
Yes.
And so eventually, was she able to get her coat?
Yes, eventually. And all their belongings out of the car.
I want to talk about your dad, Kenneth. Have you lived in the same area as your parents?
I have.
For how much of your life?
We moved to the Minneapolis area, Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, when I was 4.
So you've been in the same area as your parents mostly all your life?
Yes.
And over the last, 10, 15, 20 years, how often would you see your parents?
I see them pretty much weekly, I would say. More so recently.
And prior to April 11th of this year, had your dad been having some health issues?
22 years ago, my dad had an AVM brain bleed. It stands for arterial, it's a mass in the base of his, here in his neck, or in the base of his skull. And he was, it kind of like a stroke. And he recovered. He never recovered totally. He always had his speech wasn't as clear as it used to be, or his ability to multitask was somewhat impaired. And he had been doing well, though. He was functioning, he was driving.
Did that change? Did you notice a change in that after April 11th of this year?
Yes, prior to April 11th, he was still driving. And after the accident, I began to notice that it was increasingly hard to understand him. And his sense of reasoning was why he was doing the things he was doing weren't clear, or his articulation seemed to be getting worse and worse, and I could understand less and less of what he said. And they had a doctor appointment, I think April 20th, and I said, Mom, because I was still working, you have to, when you're with the doctor, I need you to call me because I want to talk to the doctor. And prior to that, I'd never done medical appointments with them before, but I do now. And basically, I told the doctor, I said, something's wrong. His reasoning he's not making sense, and it's hard to understand him. He's more forgetful. So, yes, I noticed the difference.
Did you see, like, in being around him and others, like your mom, that he was not the same Kenneth as before April 11th?
No, he began kind of obsessing about dying. He called a friend up who, out of the blue, and asked him to sing at his funeral because he was dying. And I then called that friend and said, so how was that conversation? And he was a little taken back, to just get a call out of the blue. So, and my dad was unable to drive anymore. It's been a challenging spring.
And we understand that for some time he went into hospice care?
Yes, he's still in hospice care. He was, his balance has gotten much worse too, and he fell in August and got an abrasion on his knee, and the abrasion became infected. And they tried treating it with oral antibiotics, and they ended up hospitalizing him and putting him on IV antibiotics. And the infection became septic, and so they had to do surgery. So he was hospitalized, and from that hospitalization, he became, this is not my dad ever, but he became really belligerent. They had him strapped to the bed. And they tried to send him to rehab after 2 weeks in the hospital, and he was in rehab in the home, and he wanted to go home, and he ripped his PICC line out, so then he ended up back in the hospital, and they had him in restraints for another 2 weeks, and it's taken a really long time for him to become stabilized. So then he was sent to another home. While he was in the hospital, they did a MRI and found that his brain is shrinking, and he didn't make sense. He was fighting, pinching the nurses. He's a big guy. You saw my mom, she's little. He was a football player and just a big man. And so when he was released from the hospital, so the palliative care was called in, and they have determined that he is hospice. So he's still in hospice. He was in a home, and we've since brought him home, but then we have home health care coming in. My mom can't go get the mail down in her apartment without having someone there 24/7.
And just so you know, I want to be very careful about this. You understand your dad being his age and having some cognitive issues already, correct?
Yes.
But do you think in what you've seen is that since April 11th, his condition has accelerated?
Extremely. I mean, he is no longer continent. He has to have all of his medications ground up. You know, I said to my mom, when did he become unable to swallow a pill? And yeah, things have accelerated quickly.
And so you're getting the appropriate care for him at home?
Yes.
All right. I have nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Counsel?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Earl Gray, Pauline, Kim Potter, and Amanda Montgomery. We represent Kim Potter. Did you learn after this accident who was driving the other car?
I did. Actually, I didn't see the news the night of the accident, but the next day I did.
And did you learn that Dante Wright was the driver in the other vehicle?
Yes.
And did your mom usually drove the car because of his fall a few years back when they were together?
No. Up until then, sometimes she drove, sometimes he drove.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. You may step down. Members of the jury, we're taking our morning break, so 20 minutes.
All right, so what do you guys think so far about all of this? They pulled out a whole nother side of the story that we didn't even know happened. The new poll should be, how many cats does this lady have? We'll figure something out. I couldn't think of a poll while we had old granny up there. She's a nice old lady. I didn't know what to put up there, so we'll have to think of something for the next one. What's up, 10 Man? You don't know about the trial? So this is the trial of Kim Potter. Kim Potter is an officer that was a part of a traffic stop. The driver, Dante Wright, had warrants for his arrest. They attempted to arrest him. There was a little bit of resistance. The officer yelled, "Taser, taser, taser," but then shot him with a Glock one time. According to the footage, it appears that it was on accident. She's claiming that it was on accident, and the driver died from the injuries. After being shot, his car rolled forward down the road, across the center median, and struck Granny's car. As you could see in the damage, it was quite the hit, and then it came to a stop. The driver died from the gunshots. According to the coroner's report or whatever. So yeah, that's basically what we're here for. Basically, they're just trying to figure out, was it actually an accident or whatever. That's what they're getting to the bottom of. Yeah, Indigo, that would suck to be an older couple, like minding your own business, having your own day, and then get dragged into this mess. I think they were talking about Kim Potter taking the stand prior to, like, when they were doing jury selection and stuff. I think there was mentions of that. I don't know how that's going to help her case at all, but maybe. Anytime I've been in court, my attorney has always advised me that if a woman shows up in court and cries, that she will get her way and they will favor her at a jury. Some legal advice I have received in the past. Maybe that's why she's going to take the stand. Maybe she'll be able to get some sympathy or something. Not really sure. I mean, obviously she did it. I don't know if she did it on purpose or not. She seemed kind of in a rough mood prior to the incident happening, just through body language and comments made that we seen in the video leading up to the event. She seemed a little bit burned out from her job. Thought she was just busting another criminal, taking another crook off the street. It's kind of how her mentality was until it happened. And then she was instantly in regret. So I don't know. I don't think there's a way out of this. 10-man. I don't think there's any winners in this case. Dante had warrants. He resisted. There were some things he could have done differently. But then again, he didn't deserve to be shot at a traffic stop where he was unarmed and wasn't necessarily being violent. He was resisting, but he wasn't like striking the officer or, trying to stab him in the neck with a pen or anything like that. So the officer obviously made some mistakes there, pulling the wrong weapon and, slaying a young man in the street for no reason. I don't think there's any winners here. Thank you so much, Faded Operator, for continuing on with the membership program. And thank you so much, Jeffrey Watt, for continuing on with the membership program. You're officially hooligans. I appreciate you guys. Let's get these shout outs in while we're taking this break. Thank you so much, Fans Guy, Cassandra, Clar420, Jeffrey Watt, and Lisa for your donations and your support. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Smokey SGT, yeah, I agree. I mean, on camera, she admitted everything. So, yeah, the trial to me is kind of like protocol, it seems like. I can't imagine they're going to be able to stretch it out very much longer. Like, I don't even know how many witnesses they have, but I can't imagine it'd be that many. There wasn't that many people involved. Faded Operator, YouTube keeps booting your membership. Are they unsubscribing you? I wish YouTube would just get off of that. That's so stupid. We could have something really, really great here if they would just take their boots off my nuts for a moment, like just a moment. For 2 months or something, YouTube was unsubscribing all my viewers. So I'm sitting here watching my subscribers go down for no reason while we have full chats and lots of conversation going on all the time. And then they finally, let off. And it seems like here we are back again. I'm watching these subscriber numbers drop, and it doesn't correlate with what we do on a daily basis. YouTube is on nonsense. I can't wait till we get another platform to rise up and actually challenge YouTube. I mean, we got Twitch and Rumble and all that stuff, but I'm really waiting for Odyssey to jump up there and get a little bit more well known. They're the ones that fully support creators and stuff, and they're not just competition for YouTube. They are anti-YouTube. They have stickers and everything that totally show that, that's how they feel, which is another reason to like Odyssey. Thank you so much, Dion, for your donation and your support. I really appreciate you. Thank you for being here. What's up, Metal Makes Me Crazy? Welcome to the show. Elisa, I would love to start my own platform. I would love to start like some sort of social media app where you could live stream and talk and all of that stuff, but I don't have the resources to do it. I would need some sort of development team in order to keep things running and stuff. I'm sure I could go on Fiverr or something and get something put together, but I wouldn't be able to continue developing the software to make it, you know, the best it could be without a team of developers, and I just simply don't have that. The Hooliverse. I actually do have a name picked out if I was able to drop some software. I'm holding on to it. Keep it in the locker just in case that opportunity pops up. You never know. You never know. I mean, hopefully it's still rolling, but we are endorsed by CAD Audio. And, you know, it kind of came out of nowhere. I've had lots of CAD Audio equipment over the years, being, you know, a rapper and music producer and audio engineer. I've bought lots of CAD Audio equipment. And never did I ever think I would receive an email from the vice president letting me know that they wanted to endorse the live and send me some audio gear. I still need to test that microphone because I'm not sure if it was the cable or the mic that was giving us static a few months ago. But CAD Audio is awesome, and I really appreciate them reaching out and endorsing us. With that being said, you know, I'm pretty much an email away. You never know. I could totally have a development team hit me up and say, hey, we want to, you know, come out with a new platform. You have an inside view of what's needed, you know, pull me on board. It could be that easy. Well, I still appreciate you being here, Gang of Four. It's always good to have you. Chase, you were watching Salty Cracker on Odyssey last night and you seen the Piss on YouTube sticker they have? Yeah, they're awesome. I'm pretty sure Salty has his own sticker through Odyssey too. Yeah, Odyssey's awesome. They're constantly going after YouTube on Twitter. They're like the best part of my Twitter feed lately. Thank you so much, McButterstone, for your donation and your support. I really appreciate you. Predictions on the trial. I don't know a lot about manslaughter charges, so I don't really know what she's going to get. She's definitely going to get something, though, and she's not getting out of it. There's just no way. She killed somebody, wasn't self-defense. It's a no-go. What's up, Salty Ragu? Science works in mysterious ways. Yeah, definitely. Live streaming and stuff is definitely the new journalism, but I think all TV is going to be this way eventually. I've been saying that for over a year. I think that live streamers, not just like myself, but you know, the ones that run video games, the ones that go and investigate haunted areas and stuff like that, has really opened my eyes to see you know, I think this is going to be the future. I think that reality TV was always a big deal. You know, MTV and all that stuff had Flavor of Love and blah, blah, blah. And that all did very well. I remember being in high school and everybody was talking about that stuff, kind of like The Bachelor before. You know, reality TV's always been a big deal, but this live streaming stuff is the realest of real reality TV that you can get. And I think that the more that Hollywood is shut down, the more that we got the plague restrictions and stuff, and celebrities have really died down. You don't really see celebrities on TV very much, unless it's LeBron James crying over Kyle, because Kyle was proven innocent with self-defense, and man, that's great watching him cry. But now that that's been the case, I feel like live streamers are really taking over as the new entertainment. And I think that once the mainstream figures that out, they're all going to hop on board. You're going to see MTV and stuff like that hopping on these live streams and engaging. I'm already seeing it with lesser known brands than something like MTV or like ESPN or something. But I think eventually it will all be live streaming. I think everything will be. Just like how far video calls have gone. Video calls used to be something for basically people who only had Wi-Fi, because it cost so much data you couldn't do a video call on a regular basis just off your data plan. And now it's at a point where people are holding court and stuff through video calls. So I think this whole screen-to-screen interaction, as well as having a show, right? You're running a show. I don't have any suggestions because I don't watch TV, but if you were running a show or some sort of reality TV, it's also a way for that company, that brand, that whatever it is, that form of entertainment. It's a way for them to directly engage with their audience. There's lots of podcasts, there's lots of talk shows, we have radio, we have stuff like that, but there's not really another way other than having a live audience that you are directly engaging with your viewers. Which makes them engage back with you, which creates more of a bond. You have a bigger audience, and your relationship with your audience is stronger. I think lives are going to take over. It's only a matter of time. Man, no more dislikes. Yeah, I've heard that some channels still have their dislike button. Like, I don't know when they decided to take mine away, but I guess there's still channels that have dislike buttons. I don't watch YouTube. I used to prior to being a streamer. Now I don't watch TV at all. Debacles sounds like a plan. If there's a not guilty verdict, I might have to try and loot you some AV equipment. Heck yeah. Might as well. They don't care. They don't care. If they cared, they'd stop it. They'd stop it from happening. No, but Kim Potter, she's not getting an innocent verdict. Not unless they just severely want their city to burn down. They're not giving her an innocent verdict. Yeah, Lisa, exactly. Kyle's whole trial was based off live streamers. All the evidence, I mean, from trying to convict him to him being proven innocent, it was all live stream footage. I mean, we wouldn't have even really known about it if it wasn't for live streaming. We watched the Kyle incident happen live, and then a year later we watched his trial because we were pretty much there when it happened. See, in this case, the only difference is the Kim Potter situation didn't happen on a live. We were actually streaming the George Floyd case when this happened. I'm pretty sure it's right on the same timeline. We were covering this. They were protesting about George Floyd because the trial had just come up and stuff, and so it kind of restirred everything up. And then all of a sudden, Kim Potter had shot Dante Wright, and that pissed everybody off who was already pissed off. So then the protesters were protesting for Dante Wright and fighting with the officers and stuff. So while I was covering protests about the re-stirred up George Floyd case, all of a sudden the Kim Potter situation happened. We didn't really cover it because it wasn't live. We didn't capture it live, but we had talked about it for a moment right when it had happened, and we thought maybe it was going to really fuel the fire. But as you can see, like here now that we're covering the trial, how many times have we had viewers show up and say, I have no idea what this is about? That's because we didn't cover it live. We weren't able to. But that's really the difference. That's the difference right there, is when you watch something happen live, you come back, you're more engaged with the situation because you watched it happen live, and so you want to see how it all ends. How do the pieces fall? I'm telling you, we're moving into a new way of life because of these live streams. Good things and bad things. Kind of like 9/11, right? Prior to 9/11, everybody had privacy. After 9/11, NSA came out on the news, said they're recording our phone calls, they're listening in on us, they're monitoring our text messages, they're monitoring our emails, they're monitoring our social media, but it's for our own protection. They're invading our privacy to keep us safe. And that's kind of what's going on now. It's just progressing forward to video chat live streams and stuff like that. We're all watching each other while they watch us. That's how it goes. Definitely, Lisa. Kyle would have been guilty if it wasn't for all the live stream footage. What's up, Jennifer? 1988. Thanks for being here. What's up, USA Forever? Ninth Judge. We are actually currently on YouTube, Twitch, Odyssey, Rumble, and Facebook right now. We're live on all those platforms right now. Rachel, I have no idea what you're talking about. You've been disappointed this year. Hopefully, I'm not one of them. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Ten Man and the brainwashed think that Kyle is still guilty. People believe what they want to believe. You know, like look at Congress. Every time they go to the House and all that stuff, all those people, Nancy Pelosi and all them, whenever they talk about J6, they always call it an insurrection. Whenever they talk about the people involved in J6, they refer to them as insurrectionists. When Donald Trump was on trial, was he proven guilty for insurrection? No. Has any insurrectionist been charged with insurrection? No. But yet they do it. Because the more they say it, the more true it is. It's messed up. You could be involved in something and watch it happen, but the loudest voice in the room, whatever they're saying, if they say it long enough, all you'll have is people who weren't there hearing it and assuming that is what happened. And that's what's wrong with the media, the mainstream media, is they push that stuff so long that people forget what really happened and they just take what they hear and they're just like, oh yeah, that's what happened. They're going to say that J6 stuff was an insurrection until someone believes them. USA Forever. No, the jury's not deliberating. We're just in a 20-minute break. Yeah, man, the live is running better now. Windows 10 has this goofy energy saving something or other, which I'm sure serves a purpose, but on my mega powered desktop with 900 watt power supply, I really don't need to be saving energy because I don't run off batteries. So I guess what that was doing is it was temporarily shutting off my internet stream through my Ethernet adapter. And so I had to go into my Windows 10 settings and make some adjustments, and now we're good. I knew once we got to the point where we were kicked off 6 times that it probably wasn't YouTube, that there was something else going on. But I made some adjustments and we've been good ever since. Now that I say that, I'm watching my bit rate drop. YouTube's like, oh yeah, that's how it goes. All right, Ninth Judge. If you can't find me on Rumble, go to the Linktree link. I have it all listed on there. Pretty much YouTube is the only place where it's just youtube.com/JeffMack. Everything else is /TheGreatJeffMack. What's up, Soapbox Luke? Rain, I don't know what you're talking about. Why did Kyle go after Q? That sounds like a terrible joke. You better chill out. I'm seeing all kinds of people have blocked you because you're basically becoming unraveled in the chat. I'm trying to let you go, but if you don't stop, you're going to end up getting banned. So you might as well just take a little break. Take a little break. Just walk away from the keyboard for a little bit. I'm witching bad. It could be day 7, but today is day 2 of the actual trial. Yesterday was the opening statements. So today's only day 2 of the trial. Everything prior to yesterday was just jury selection and paperwork. Parabellum, that hot cocoa break is taking forever. That's just the way it is. When we cover trials or people in the White House, when they say they're going to take a 5-minute break, 10-minute break, you got to add 30 minutes onto that just to kind of have a guesstimation of when they may or may not come back. It's even worse with like the House and that kind of stuff. We've waited 45 minutes just for them to come back and say they were wrapping it up for the day.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy.
I appreciate you, Andrew.
Both the prosecutors.
Mike?
Oh.
Thanks.
There's been a habit by both prosecutors of after the witness testifies to something, they repeat the answer. I haven't objected, but I would like them to stop doing that. Because it's not proper to repeat the answer on anybody.
All right. Could you please refrain from doing that? It's kind of lengthens the proceedings.
The judge looks like a motocross rider. Oh my God. I don't think so. That's funny. You're the first one to say that. Let's think of some ideas for the poll. Russ King, we'll do a recap in a little bit. I've already done it twice in the break.
Let me call this next witness.
Your Honor, the state would call Carrie Blansky to the stand.
Good morning. Please stand behind the witness chair.
Rachel, my live streams don't make it into evidence because I'm not the person on the ground. I'm just the commentator.
Truthfully testify in connection with this case.
Yes, I do.
Okay, please take a seat. And please remove your mask. State your full name and spell it.
Kerry, Kerry, last name Blansky, Blanski.
All right. There's 4 rules to testifying. The court reporter is taking down everything that's being said. You have to answer yes or no instead of shaking your head. And please don't say uh-huh and because we don't get a clear record. Only one person can talk.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Salty Ragu.
So wait until the question is finished before you answer.
If you don't understand a question, please let the lawyer know and it will be clarified. And finally, if an objection is made, please stop talking immediately. Do not answer the question unless I tell you to. Counsel?
Ms. Blansky, you might have to pull the microphone just a little bit closer to make sure everybody can hear okay. Thank you. I want to draw your attention to April 11 of this year. And if you could just tell us, well, let me ask it this way. At that point in time on that day, were you living in the area of 63rd Avenue and Catherine in Brooklyn Center?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to show you on the screen sort of an overhead photograph we have of the area. So if we could put up Exhibit 1. Do you see that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And so is the location where your home is on this photograph?
My home is just slightly out of the photograph on the far right.
Okay. In front of you there should be one of these little styluses. Can you take that and just actually write on the screen kind of where your home would be in this?
Right. Oops. Sorry about that. There's my house right there.
Okay. So you've drawn a red X there, which would be just to the east of Catherine, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And, Your Honor, at this time I'm going to offer Exhibit 2. It's the other photograph of the scene of the area.
Any objection to Exhibit 2? There being no objection, Exhibit 2 will be admitted into evidence.
All right, showing you Exhibit 2. Do you see what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize the area depicted there?
I do.
Would this have any more of your home depicted on it?
We have a lot of tree coverage in our yard, so you cannot see the house, but you can see the trees.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and that, yes, if you would just go ahead and draw it again.
There.
All right. So again, we're looking at the just east of where Catherine runs into 63rd, correct?
Yes.
All right. And prior to April 11th, how long had you lived in that location?
It was 20 years last June.
And 63rd Avenue there, is that a fairly busy street?
It's a fairly heavily traveled road.
Is that kind of a main street in the area?
I would say so.
Yeah. And living there, have you heard car crashes out on 63rd before?
Oh, yes.
So on April 11th, did you that day hear what you thought was a crash?
I did.
You just described for the jurors kind of where you were when you heard that.
I was in the upstairs bathroom. Had just walked up there and I heard the crash. I shouted downstairs to my husband, was there a crash? And he said, yes, I believe so. I went downstairs and he had already gone outside, which is what we normally do to make sure everybody's okay. He was outside, I came outside, and he told me that we should stay back. Another police car had pulled up. A police car was traveling west on 63rd towards Catherine and had slowly rolled up to Catherine. The officer had gotten out and was standing in the fold of his car door with his gun drawn. And so we stayed back. We didn't know exactly what was going on, and we were watching from the corner of our home.
Okay. So if I can, could you draw, just mark on this Exhibit 2, the location of the officer with the gun drawn?
Must have been about there.
Okay. And did you see other cars that you thought might have been involved in the crash?
Yes, there was another vehicle that was on the sidewalk on that'd be the south side of, right across from the arrow there.
Okay. And how many cars did you see that appeared to have been in a crash?
Just the two cars, just the white car near where the arrow is, and then there was I believe it was a gray car across the road on the sidewalk.
Okay. And so did you then stay out there for a while and observe what was going on?
Yes, we did.
On that day, April 11th, did you have some security cameras on the outside of your house?
Yes, sir.
And eventually, did you take a look at those videos to see if it had captured the crash?
We did.
And at some point, were you interviewed by law enforcement officers about the crash, and did you provide them the videos?
Yes, we did.
And Your Honor, I'm going to offer Exhibit 36, which is a portion of that video.
Any objection to 36? There being no objection, 36 will be admitted into evidence and you may publish.
Okay, I'm going to run the video now, okay? Now, if we could just pause this here for a moment, please. And so do you recognize this video?
Yes, I do.
And can you describe for the jurors, that yard that's really in the center of the photograph, whose yard is that?
Yes, sir, that's our yard. You can see the swing set in the backyard and the gate going into our backyard.
So this is sort of a side yard?
Yes, yes.
And what is the roadway in the photograph?
That's 63rd Avenue.
Okay. And then towards the top of the photograph, there's a street that goes off away from your home. Do you know which street that is?
That's Catherine Avenue.
Okay. And so this is just security video, a security camera that you have on the outside of your home.
Yes, sir.
And then we will, in the timestamp on the top of the security video, do you believe that to be accurate recording of the time? I'm sorry?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And then let's go ahead and play. And let's pause right here for a moment, please. And I guess just for the record, we're looking here at the timestamp of 2:02:24, correct?
Yes.
Now, you told us earlier that you saw two vehicles that you believed had been involved in a crash. Why did you think that they were the ones involved in the crash when you went out there?
Because there normally aren't cars in that position on the sidewalks, I suppose.
Yeah. You were thinking it's a dumb question, right? But was there also damage that you noticed to both cars?
I did. The gray car on the south side of the road was heavily damaged. The white car had some damage. I couldn't tell very well because the police car had pulled up, so I couldn't really see much damage. It was just the positioning of the vehicle that led me to believe it was involved.
So if you could, again, take that stylus. I know the gray car is kind of hard to see, but can draw a circle around that where that gray car is. Okay. And then the other car involved in the crash, can you draw a circle around that?
Yeah.
And is that also the police car that you
Yes.
saw arrive? All right. So. And then let's just let the exhibit run, please. right, so let's pause it right here, please. I'm just going to stop this here, and for the record, the timestamp indicates 2:02:47. After hearing the crash, did you go outside and observe what was going on?
Yes, I did.
And as we look at this Exhibit 36, can you just kind of describe for the jurors where you went? Well, let me ask you it this way. How long were you outside there that day?
I would say the remainder of the day. We were out there for all the events that unfolded.
And while you were out there, did you just kind of stay in the area that's depicted here in the security video?
I stayed here for quite a while and then went to my neighbor's. Well, I don't remember exactly what sequence. Actually, I was in the front for a while, went into the backyard. By the time I got back there, the people in the gray car that were on the sidewalk closest to us were no longer in the vehicle. And at some point in the day, I was at my neighbor's house across the street. Not in this picture, they're not.
Fair to say that there was a lot of police officers that responded to this?
Yes, sir.
And did you also then sort of help with some bystanders or some other people in the area eventually?
After hours, it was a chilly day, chilly April day, and the family of Dante showed up. I assumed that his mother had arrived because she was very, very visibly upset. And I overheard somebody say that that was his mother. After a while, other people that I assumed were family showed up. And there's a retaining wall right there on the right. That's where they were sitting, right next to our yard. After a few hours, we brought out a couple chairs. I don't think Dante's mother and father were still there. Just from what I've learned after the fact, I think it was his brother and a young woman. We brought in a couple chairs and a blanket.
So then what I think we should probably do is just let Exhibit 36 run to the end, please. Okay. That's all I have here. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. You may step down. The state may call its next witness.
This time, Your Honor, the state called Officer Alan Salvosa.
Okay, good morning, officer. Will you please come forward? Stand behind the witness chair, which is right next to me.
Yes, Your Honor.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that you will truthfully testify?
I do, Your Honor.
Please have a seat.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And then please remove your mask. And state your full name and spell it.
It's Alan, A-L-A-N, Douglas, D-O-U-G-L-A-S, last of Salvosa, S-A-L, V as in Victor, O-S-A.
Okay, officer, just a couple of reminders. Yes or no answers. Don't shake your head. Don't say uh-huh or uh-uh. Only one person can talk at a time. Please wait until the question is finished before you answer. If you don't understand a question, let the lawyer know. And finally, if an objection is made, stop talking. Don't answer unless I tell you to.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Counsel?
Good morning. Could you please state your occupation for the record?
I'm a police officer of the City of Brooklyn Center, sir.
How long have you been a police officer?
Going on 12 years in January, sir.
Did you work anywhere in the law enforcement capacity prior to joining the Brooklyn Center Police Department 12 years ago?
I was in a non-sworn position with the Richfield Police Department. Otherwise, all my sworn experience has been with the Brooklyn Center Police Department, sir.
And throughout that time, you've been a licensed peace officer?
Yes, sir.
And you take continuing education courses to maintain that license?
Yes, sir.
And you're trained to respond to emergencies?
Yes, sir.
And in report writing?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a specific assignment with the Brooklyn Center Police Department?
I'm in the patrol division, sir.
And when working on patrol, are you equipped with a body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
Could you describe how that works?
The body-worn camera would sit basically on my chest. It can be activated by me pressing the button, or it has certain triggers. It's linked to my squad car camera. So if I turn on my squad car and hit the lights and sirens, it automatically syncs and will also activate. Kind of a nutshell how it works, sorry.
And that video is retained after your shift and can be reviewed later, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
As a patrol officer, could you explain your duties?
The duties are to respond to 911 calls for service if people call 911. I have to respond, take reports. We do proactive patrol, investigate suspicious persons, respond to medical emergencies, do traffic enforcement, kind of jack of all trades, I guess.
Mm-hmm. When you're on patrol, do you travel in a marked squad?
Yes, sir. Sometimes in an unmarked, but for the most part, a marked squad.
Okay. And how many officers are typically in a squad car in Brooklyn Center?
Typically one, unless you're in a training position, sir.
Right. So, unless you're in a training position, you're driving one person in a squad?
Yes, sir.
And when you're working on patrol, are there other officers on patrol in other squads during your shift?
Yes, sir.
How many in a typical shift, assuming full staff?
Anywhere from 3 to 7, depending on shift minimums and the time of day, sir.
Is there a supervising officer also on duty?
Yes, sir.
Is that person typically of the sergeant rank?
Yes, sir. Typically it would be a sergeant. Unless there isn't a sergeant, then it would fall to the most senior officer.
Is it common to refer to that type of sergeant as a patrol sergeant?
Yes, sir.
And with regard to the 3 to 7 officers on a given shift, do you communicate with each other during the shift?
Yes, sir.
How do you communicate with other officers?
Typically by the radio. We have our dispatch channel, a channel where we can speak to other Brooklyn Center officers, email, we can send each other messages through our computer system, and obviously cell phones.
Is radio to radio communication a common part of your shift?
Yes, sir.
And how big is your patrol area?
The City of Brooklyn Center is 8 square miles, and it's broken up into 5 districts. So about 1/5 of an 8 square mile, depending on what district you're assigned to.
Do individual patrol officers stay in their districts during the course of the shift, or do you drive throughout those districts?
You can drive throughout the city. You just have to be able to respond to your specific district.
So you essentially have a zone coverage during the
Yes,
shift.
sir.
Okay. Now I have a few questions about how patrol officers assist each other during their shifts. Let's say you have an individual stop for something basic like speeding. Do you communicate that you're out stopping a vehicle to your fellow officers?
Yes, sir.
How do you do that?
You would radio the dispatcher and basically say that you're out on a traffic stop or stopping a vehicle for whatever reason, or depending on the type of call, you would basically use your call number and then tell the dispatcher what you're doing. It would be something to the effect of, 3219, I'm on a traffic stop with whatever the license plate was, or 3219, I'm stopping a suspicious person, and then give the location of your stop.
Does that prompt other officers on your shift to do anything automatically?
Yes.
And what is that?
Well, if they're in the area, they would probably start to your location. They would obviously look at their computer and see that you were assigned to something. They would hear it over the radio, and so they would have an idea that you're out with something, and if they were close, typically they would try to respond, or they would maybe ask you if you needed backup, depending on the type of call.
That sort of response, do you have to specifically ask for it, or is it just part of the practice of how you support each other during a given shift?
It's a bit of both. Sometimes, depending on the location or the level of training of the officer, you might ask them if they need backup. Sometimes if you're close, you might respond. Other times, if it's not that big a deal, you might just acknowledge that you hear them, but it all just depends on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. How often during a typical shift would a sergeant stop to support you?
Depends, probably a couple times a shift, depending on how busy it is, or if he's close by a call, he will stop by. If it's any major call, a supervisor will always try to stop out.
Okay. I have a couple of questions specifically about you, Officer Salvosa. Have you held any specific assignments or duties during your time with the Brooklyn Center Police Department?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us about those assignments?
I am a field training officer. I was on the SWAT team, and I'm on the West Metro Mobile Command Field Force.
Okay, let's break each of those down. Maybe first, could you explain what it means to be a member of the SWAT team?
I'm a member of the SWAT team of Brooklyn Center. Basically, we respond to high-risk calls for service, barricaded suspects, warrants, and things like that, where you typically need a higher level of response than just a patrol response, hostage negotiation, things like that.
Okay. And what about the West Command Mobile Field Force?
That's a joint partnership with other agencies and for civil unrest and things like that. Basically, we would be the guys that would be out there, depending on the level of civil unrest, to kind of protect buildings and property and life.
Okay. Now, in terms of being a field training officer, how long have you been a field training officer?
Approximately 5 or 6 years, sir.
Could you explain what a field training officer is?
Field training officer is someone who takes new recruits or new people to Brooklyn Center who are becoming cops and has to train them and evaluate them, monitor their progress, and make recommendations whether they move to the next level of training, or identifies additional things they would need to improve on before successfully moving on as a police officer in the city of Brooklyn Center.
Does being a field training officer require any special skills or training?
Yes, typically you'd have to have some time with the Brooklyn Center Police Department. You'd have to show knowledge of craft, discipline, some leadership, some mentoring. You'd have to go to a specialized school to be certified to be a field trainer.
Okay. And it does require a good understanding of policy?
Yes, a working knowledge.
Now, describe how a given day may be different when you're serving in your role as a field training officer or FTO versus not being an FTO on that day.
If I was an FTO, and I'd have a lot more freedom, there's a lot more, I'm just by myself, I respond to my calls, I can do whatever I want, essentially, in terms of how I want to patrol or how I want my day to go. I'd still respond to calls, but there's a lot less paperwork. As a field trainer, there's a lot more mentoring, a lot more training, a lot more paperwork, a lot more trying to evaluate and test your probation or your trainee.
And part of that is intending to impart policy and reasonable practice on them, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One additional background topic. Have you ever needed to provide any emergency medical aid during the course of your career?
Yes, sir.
I just want to talk about that for a minute. What medical training have you received as a Brooklyn Center police officer?
First responder certified EMR, basically first aid, CPR, how to treat wounds, how to triage, things like that.
Okay. And how often have you utilized that degree of medical training in the field?
Almost daily on a shift. We're always responding to some type of medical, whether it's someone feeling sick, someone who fell down, someone who has a head injury, car accidents, heart attacks, strokes, all kinds of medical situations. Anytime anyone would call 911 for a medical emergency, police would typically respond depending on how busy we were.
Okay. Now, during your career, prior to April 11th of 2021, did you work with a fellow officer named Kim Potter?
Yes, sir.
Could you describe how you knew her?
She was officer when I started.
And did you know her professionally throughout your career?
Yes, sir. I've known her since I've been a police officer.
Beyond your role as a fellow police officer, did you have any other interactions with her in a professional capacity?
Yes, she was the union president.
The president of the police union?
Yes, sir.
And she was available to, if you needed to speak to her on issues of advice, etc.?
Yes, sir.
If you saw her in person, would you recognize her?
Yes, sir.
Is she seated in the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
I will stipulate that it's a Kinsler sitting next to me.
All right.
Given your experience with Officer Potter, do you believe that you engaged in radio communication with her in the past?
Yes, sir.
Given that experience, do you believe that you would have the ability to recognize her voice over the radio?
Yes, sir.
I now want to discuss the events of April 11th of 2021. Do you recall that day?
Yes, sir.
Were you on duty?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what your shift was?
I believe it was a power shift or a day shift. I'm not certain, but I was working either a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. At approximately 2 p.m., you were on duty, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what you were doing?
I believe I was grabbing lunch.
Did you receive any communication from any fellow officers around that time?
Yes, sir.
And what communication was that?
I heard over the radio that Officer Lucky had initiated a traffic stop somewhere on 63rd Avenue North in Brooklyn Center.
Okay. Did you respond to that information?
I acknowledged it. I heard it over the radio, but I didn't acknowledge it.
Okay. Did you respond to that information?
Yes.
And how did you respond?
I decided to drive towards that traffic stop.
As you responded, did you know any other information about that traffic stop beyond that it was a vehicle which was stopped?
I believe there was some communication about possibly having a warrant attached to the vehicle or person, and they wanted another squad.
Okay. Now, I have just another question about 63rd Avenue. Would you agree that this is a well-traveled road in Brooklyn Center?
Yes, sir.
Is that a road that you as a patrol officer have spent some time on?
Yes, sir.
A lot of cars going by?
Yes, sir. It's a major artery. You can essentially get from the center of the city all the way into Brooklyn Park.
And you're traveling in that squad car by yourself that day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you make it to the actual location of the traffic stop?
No, sir.
And why did you not?
Prior to arriving on the traffic stop, as I was driving westbound, I was probably a block and a half away when I observed, I could see the flashing lights of Officer Lucky's squad car. I observed a white Buick take off from that traffic stop at a high rate of speed. It crossed the eastbound lane onto the westbound lane, essentially coming directly head on at me, and it collided with a vehicle in front of me, sir.
And could you give the cross streets of where you saw that collision take place?
Approximately 63rd and Catherine Drive, sir.
Was that a startling observation for you at that time?
Yes, sir.
What did you do when you saw that crash?
I immediately got on the radio. I notified the dispatcher that I had a PI accident or personal injury accident stemming from a flee from the traffic stop. I asked for an ambulance to come immediately to the area. The vehicle, after it hit the car in front of me, the car that it hit went to my left, or basically south, and stopped. The Buick basically hit the car and came to a rest on the corner of 63rd and Catherine in the northwest corner. It had heavy front end damage. It was heavily tinted. Because it was a fleeing vehicle from a traffic stop and it was a felony crime, I took my handgun out and pointed it at the vehicle. I ordered everyone in the vehicle to put their hands up even though I couldn't see. And I called for additional help, sir.
Did you see any other officers in that area?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, beyond Officer Lucky's squad in front of you?
No, sir.
Would you agree that traffic was still traveling back and forth on 63rd?
Yes, sir.
And as you arrived, did you have any information about the medical condition of anyone in that Buick?
No, sir, not as I arrived initially. The windows were rolled up. It was tinted. I couldn't see inside.
Yep. And was there any information about the medical status of those individuals communicated to you via radio at that time?
No. There may have been, but I didn't hear it because I was yelling at the car trying to get them to put their hands up.
Did you know whether anyone had a basis to believe that an occupant had a weapon at that time?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, sir?
Did you know whether anyone had a basis to believe that anyone had a weapon in that vehicle?
I did not have specific information that that car had a weapon at the time, no.
Did you receive any information from any of the officers at the scene of the traffic stop at that time?
I don't recall. There may have been, but I was yelling at the car to get their hands up, so.
How about Officer Potter specifically? Do you remember her reporting anything to you over the radio about the condition of anyone in that Buick?
No, sir.
Were you surprised that you didn't receive any information from anyone at the traffic stop?
I was confused.
Would it have helped you to learn more information about the occupants in the vehicle at that time?
Your objection is irrelevant in the conclusion of the witness.
Do you want to rephrase the question, counsel, please?
You had previously testified you didn't know how many people were in the vehicle or what was going on in that vehicle. Would it have helped you to know more information about what was going on in the vehicle as you approached?
Which vehicle are we talking
The
about?
white Buick, Officer Salosa.
It may have helped depending on what the information was.
Okay. So as you arrived and you directed the occupants of the white Buick at gunpoint, could you see anything in the vehicle at that time?
I saw some movement, but it was heavily tinted. So it was kind of hard to see. I could discern movement. That was about it.
Did you attempt to address the occupants in the vehicle?
Yes, I gave several commands for them to put their hands up.
And did you see any physical response to your commands?
There was some movement, and at some point the passenger lowered her window.
And was there any verbal response at that time?
I think the passenger said, "I can't," or something similar, and then the passenger said something about, "He's not breathing."
Under those circumstances, would you describe your tone at that point?
It was aggressive. It was a little bit amped up because of the flea, and I had him at gunpoint.
As you were communicating with those occupants, did you have any other communication with fellow officers?
I asked for additional squads to help me. I informed them that the passenger and the victim were not cooperating. There was a lot of movement. They wouldn't exit the vehicle. I believe I updated that the male was possibly not breathing and I needed additional help because I was by myself to address the issue and try to get the male out to get him help.
After a period of time, were you able to have some communication with the individual in the passenger seat?
Yes.
And could you describe this individual, her appearance?
She was a female. She had some facial injuries from the crash. She was crying.
Do you recall whether that individual gave you further information?
Just that he wasn't breathing, the male driver.
And based on your observations, did you see anything that contradicted her account that he was not breathing?
I could barely see him. He was kind of slumped back in the driver's seat.
So you'd agree that for a period of several minutes, you held the white Buick at gunpoint, no one came in or out of the vehicle?
Object to that is leading and repetitions, Your Honor.
I'll let you answer that question. The objection is overruled.
Can you repeat the question, sir?
I said, you'd agree that for a period of several minutes, you held the white Buick at gunpoint and no one came in or out of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Did other officers arrive at the scene eventually?
Yes, sir.
How long did it take for other officers to arrive?
Felt like forever, but probably a couple minutes.
Did multiple squads arrive?
Yes, sir.
Were they all from Brooklyn Center?
No, sir. There was multiple agencies. Hennepin County, Brooklyn Park, Champlin, Crystal, I think Robbinsdale. I don't know the specifics, but those ones I know for sure were there.
When they arrived, did you interact with these other officers?
Yes.
Could you describe your interactions?
I briefed them initially on what I had, that the vehicle that I had my gun pointed at was a fleeing vehicle from the traffic stop. There was one one passenger in the front seat, one driver, and there was potentially a passenger in the back seat because I couldn't see into the back seat, but I assume there was.
And did you, at that point, with your fellow officers, make a plan of what to do next?
Yep, we kind of talked about it, and then a supervisor arrived on scene, and we started coordinating what the next steps would be to safely remove the passenger, remove the driver, and then provide aid.
At that point, did you have further verbal interaction with the occupants of the vehicle?
Other than telling them to put their hands up, I think I told the female several times to get out of the car so we can help the driver, because I knew time was of the essence and he wasn't breathing, but there was no way to safely go up there without her cooperation.
And what did she do in response to that?
Eventually she got out of the vehicle, put her hands up, and then walked towards another officer that gave her commands.
Did you have any direct interaction with her?
After that point, no, sir.
Do you know where she went after that encounter?
I believe she was placed in the back of a squad car.
Okay. Now, after the female's removed from the vehicle, could you see any activity in the Buick?
Very limited. I think the driver was still in the driver's seat. The back door was still closed. It was still tinted. And we were kind of gathering information as to whether there was another party in the car and what we could see and kind of coordinate the response.
So at that time you didn't know whether it was just the driver or whether there were other individuals in the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Eventually, did you confirm how many individuals were in that vehicle?
Yes, sir. We were kind of able to get a better view. I think as more officers arrived, they had better angles of view into the car. I think someone had spoken to the female who basically said it was just her and the male driver.
Okay. Beyond the information that he appeared to be injured and the visual observation that he appeared non-responsive, did you know anything else about the driver?
No, sir.
Ultimately, you did take action toward the Buick, correct? You as a group of officers?
Yes, sir.
How many officers were present at that point?
I don't know the exact number, but I'd say upwards of 5 or 6.
Okay. Could you describe the group's actions toward the Buick?
They kind of made up a plan. They asked for a bunker, which is a ballistic shield. There was talk about having a 40-millimeter launcher, which is a non-lethal, less lethal weapon system that shoots foam rounds. They kind of tried to figure out the best way to approach the vehicle. I think at one point they were going to come from the back of the vehicle, but then they decided to come around towards the front.
Okay. From the time that you observed the crash, from the time that officers approached the vehicle, how much time elapsed?
It would be hard to say, sir. I'd say 5 to 10 minutes, give or take, ballpark.
And your body-worn camera was on this time?
Yes, sir.
So that would accurately reflect the time that it took between these two occasions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you participate in approaching the driver in the vehicle?
Not initially, sir, no.
Okay. What did you do?
I held back as they approached, and I lowered my weapon to avoid crossfire issues.
And did you, after they approached the vehicle, did you end up assisting the group in any particular way?
Yes, I grabbed my medical bag and my AED from the trunk of my squad car and gave them the medical bag and was prepared to assist them in providing medical aid.
By that time, did you observe what the group of officers actually did with regard to the driver?
They had extricated him and pulled him out towards the front of the car and were giving him first aid. They were starting to administer aid.
Okay. And could you observe his condition at that time?
Barely. I think I observed it for a little bit. I dropped the medical bag off. I believe I was trying to put on gloves till I was ordered to tape off the crime scene.
Okay. Did you later learn the identity of that individual that was pulled out of the vehicle?
Yes.
And what was his identity?
I believe it was Dante Wright.
Okay. Did you participate in any of the life-saving measures at that time?
Other than providing my medical bag and my AED to the officers already working on him.
So you testified that you were directed to go tape off the area? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Could you describe what that means to the jury?
It means taking police tape and securing a perimeter around the area to preserve evidence, to prevent tampering of evidence, to keep onlookers and people that shouldn't be allowed in the scene. It prevents people from trampling the scene, other vehicles, other cars, other vehicles, other people, non-investigated people into the crime scene.
After you taped off a certain part of the area, what did you do after that? You taped off.
I believe someone had said that they spoke to an individual who claimed she was the mother of the deceased.
Let's pause on that for just one moment. Perhaps I should say, after you took some time to tape off 63rd Avenue, do you recall standing in the area where the white Buick was located?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you learn about the status of the driver at that point?
Yes, sir.
And what was the medical status of the driver?
That he had been shot.
Okay. I should say this. Did you learn also that he had been pronounced dead?
Yes, sir.
During this period of time, prior to speaking to any witnesses, did you have any information that this was an officer-involved shooting?
No, sir.
Now, you had mentioned that you heard that someone had come to the scene?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
I believe it was Dante's mother, Katie Wright.
And do you recall when they came to the scene?
It was pretty quick, sir. I would say within 5 to 10 minutes of it all kind of settling down.
And where were they located when you first saw them?
They were just outside the initial perimeter and crime scene tape, just to the east of Catherine Drive, probably a block and a half, the next intersection, maybe. Excuse me.
How far away were they from Mr. Wright's body at that time?
A block. I think they were at the next corner, so a city block.
Did you end up speaking to Mr. Wright's parents?
Briefly.
Was there any reason that you ended up being the one that spoke to his parents?
At that time, I was one of the Brooklyn Center officers, and I had no indication that the case was not going to be handled by Brooklyn Center, so it would have been typical for a Brooklyn Center officer to investigate incidents in Brooklyn Center.
Did you obtain information from who you understood to be Dante Wright's mother?
Yes, sir.
What information did you obtain?
That she asked a lot of questions. She said that...
The objection is sustained.
At some point during this period of time, did you hear information that this was an officer-involved shooting?
Yes, sir.
How long did you speak with Mr. Wright's parents?
I don't know the exact minutes, but probably anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, depending. I wasn't timing myself. I apologize.
After you concluded speaking to Mr. Wright's parents, what did you do?
I was informed that I had to return back to the police department and be isolated because I was a potential witness.
And who communicated that information to you?
I believe it would be Sergeant Lawrence.
And did you understand that was per policy or protocol?
Yes, sir.
After that decision was made and you were informed of that, could you describe what happened to you?
I was escorted by another officer to the Brooklyn Center Police Department, and I was given a quiet place to be by myself without any interaction with anyone else except for an attorney.
Do you know the name of the officer who escorted you to the Brooklyn Center Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
Officer Dan Irish with the Champlin Police Department.
Okay. And had you known Officer Irish in any other capacity besides that day?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
We served together in the West Mobile Command and Mobile Field Force.
Okay. How long were you at the Brooklyn Center Police Department that day?
A couple hours, I believe, sir.
Now, did you do anything else with regard to this case?
No, sir.
Did you collect any evidence?
No, sir.
Did you interview any witnesses?
No, sir.
Did you write any reports?
Yes, sir. For my attorney, for my statement for what happened.
Did you speak to anyone from the BCA after that incident?
No, sir.
Did you witness any of the events firsthand which caused Mr. Wright's death?
No, sir.
Okay. Now I want to go through a couple exhibits with you. Could you put up exhibit 1? Officer Salvosa, I'm showing you exhibit 1 on the screen in front of you. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that as a map of the area that we've been discussing this morning?
Yes, sir.
Could you identify or at least point at the path of your vehicle as you arrived?
So I would have been going westbound, sir, this way.
Okay, I see you make an X there on the right side of that map, directly below Catherine Avenue? Catherine Avenue?
Catherine Drive, yes, sir.
Catherine Drive. And where was the white Buick as it came to a stop?
It would have been right at this X, sir.
The blue X right there on the map?
Yes, sir.
And where did officers pull Mr. Wright's body?
Sorry, can you repeat that again, sir?
Where did officers pull Mr. Wright's body out of the vehicle and set it down?
Probably right here, sir. Sorry.
You're doing fine.
Just north of that.
Just north of the X?
Yes, sir.
And where did you assist with the taping of the perimeter?
It would have been further to the east, sir, so it wouldn't be on this map, but probably if you look at city blocks, it'd be the next intersection.
Okay. And where were you when you approached Katie Bryan, Mr. Wright's mother?
Would have been, it's not on this map, but further east, the next intersection.
Further east off this map. Okay. I now want to show you a video that you saw before trial. Am I correct that the squad car that you were driving that day was equipped with a squad video recorder?
Yes, sir.
And how does that squad video recorder activate?
It has certain triggers. If I activate my lights and siren, if I press the record button myself, if I go over a certain speed limit, it activates. There's sensors if I'm involved in some kind of crash or something, it activates.
Yep. And do you know whether your squad video captured your arrival in that vehicle collision you've testified about?
It did, sir.
Okay. And you've had an opportunity to review that prior to trial?
Yes, sir.
At this time, Your Honor, the state will offer Exhibit 37. That's a squad video of Officer Salvosa's arrival.
Any objection?
There be no objection. 37 will be admitted into evidence and you may publish.
Let's do that at this time. Maybe we just pause at the beginning. Officer Salvosa, I'm showing you just the first second of your exhibit. Would you agree there's a timestamp on here of 14:01 and 44 seconds?
Yes, sir.
For most everybody in the world, that's 2:01 and 44 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Would you testify today that that was an accurate time?
Yes, sir.
And could you just describe to the jury what they see on their screen right now?
So you're seeing a view from my quad car camera, which should have been centered. If I'm driving, it would be right here. It is capturing my movements as I'm driving westbound on 63rd.
Okay. And we'll hit play at this point.
She's saying that she's tired of being a Democrat because of the absolute. 3219, PI accident, 63rd Captain Drive, left and 38 stop, start north on the Reds. Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
Officer Salvosa, the video concluded, and as it began, would you agree that you were following one of the vehicles that ultimately ended up in the crash, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was a hard-ass crash.
Prior to the vehicle collision, did you see debris flying to the left of that vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Could you identify for the jury what you saw flying out there?
I believe it was probably, there's a median there with a sign, so I believe it was probably debris from the vehicle or something hitting kind of the median before it hit the car in front of me, sir.
Okay. I now want to show you another video. It's a composite video of your arrival that you saw before trial. I just have a few preliminary questions about it. You've testified today that you were wearing your body-worn camera, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was activated as you arrived at the scene?
Yes, sir.
In addition, are you aware that there was a home surveillance video that captured your arrival at the scene?
I was made aware after the fact. I wasn't aware at the time.
During a prior meeting, did you see a video which was a synced composite of the surveillance video and your body-worn camera at the time of your arrival?
Yes, sir.
All right. At this time, Your Honor, the state is going to offer Exhibit 38. It's a composite video of Officer Salvosa's arrival at the scene.
Any objection from 38? Is there any objection to 38? There being no objection, 38 will be admitted into evidence and you may publish, counsel.
Okay, let's play that video this time. Maybe I'll just pause the image here at this time. If I had to look at that screen, it would be much more difficult to see. But Officer Salvosa, would you agree that there are essentially two images on the screen right now?
Yes, sir.
And can you identify what the screen is on the lower right?
That appears to be my body cam video, sir.
Okay. And would you agree that there's a timestamp at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And that's listed at 2:02 and 5 seconds?
Yes, sir.
And then there's a image on the top left, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's the surveillance video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's play the video.
Is saying that she's tired of being a Democrat because of the absolutism that she's
3219, PI accident, 63rd and Catherine Drive, fled from 38 stop, start north on the Reds. Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
we're going to need a big to do what's
Put your hands up! Put them up! Put your hands up!
Officer Salvosa, I'd like to now play for the jury a third video. Do you recall that your body-worn camera continues on past that point, beyond the point, and actually captures your interaction with the vehicle and ultimately the response by the group of officers?
Yes, sir.
And you've had an opportunity to review that prior to trial, correct?
Yes, sir.
At this time, the state offers Exhibit 39. That's a portion of Officer Salvosa's body-worn camera.
Any objection to 39? There being no objection, 39 will be admitted and you may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. This video is a bit longer, Officer Salvosa, correct? It's about 16 minutes long?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You will be given an opportunity to discuss issues if they come up. Could we please play that, Mr. Miller?
is saying that she's tired of being a Democrat because of the absolutism that she's
3219, PI accident, 63rd and Catherine Drive, fled from 38 stop, start north on the Reds.
Did you recognize the voice on this video?
Yes, sir.
And whose voice was that?
My voice, sir.
Did you hear yourself say, start north on the Reds?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell the jury what that means?
North Memorial Ambulance is the ambulance company that provides services to Brooklyn Center. So when we refer to them as North, so that would basically refer to an ambulance. On the reds means the fastest response possible.
Lights and sirens.
Yes, sir.
Put your hands up! 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 Put them up! Put your hands up!
319, several at gunpoint, 63rd and Catherine Drive. Start north on the reds and start 2 rigs. We've got a civilian car injured as well. As soon as we get additional cars, I'll check for injuries. Suspects are not compliant. They're moving around.
Put your hands up!
Hey, sir, stay there. Stay there.
You directed someone to stay there. Do you know who you were talking to at that time?
I believe it was the person in the injured vehicle.
In the which injured vehicle?
The Subaru that was hit head on in front of me, sir.
Okay, and can you actually see the other vehicle on your screen now?
It's just in the corner by my door frame. You can kind of see it right outside my door frame.
Okay. Right outside your door frame in the way left side of this image?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can continue, Mr. Miller.
Put your hands up! Lower the window! Lower the window!
Ma'am, are you okay? Stay there. Stay there. 319. We'll take 2 rigs, stage them a couple blocks out. What's that? 3219. The driver is not breathing. I'll take an additional squad and we'll yank him out. But get him here on the reds. I'm by myself, holding him at gunpoint. Reach 219, make it 3 rigs. I got 1 male not breathing, 1 female with facial lacerations, and then I've got another civilian car that I have not been able to check on yet. Incoming squad, come to me at 63rd and Catherine so we can get the driver out and the passenger, and then we'll have to check on anyone else after, but the driver is not breathing according to the passenger. Passenger's moving around, I can't see him, but we're going to need to extricate him if he's not breathing. So I'll wait for additional, let's come up with the plan. Okay, so female passenger, driver.
I just wanted to pause quickly. 2:06 and right on the dot. Would you agree that that's the timestamp that the video is paused at this time?
Yes, sir.
And in your leftmost view on this screen, do you see the number 1683?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell the jury what you're seeing at this time?
I'm seeing one of the first officers to arrive, which would be a Brooklyn Park squad.
Okay. And I won't interrupt at this time. You're going to begin to explain the situation to him, I assume?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He's not breathing. 3 from the traffic stop, and then they crashed. 3219, the suspect I'm at gunpoint at is a flee from 38 stop.
passenger, get out of the car! Get out of the car! Get out of the car so we can take care of him! Get out of the car! Yes, you! Get out of the car so we can help him! Get out of the car!
Just grab a bunker if you got one. You got a bunker?
Copy that. Ma'am, put your hands up.
I'm behind you.
Okay, he's not. Yep, I see him. He's not breathing.
Okay.
Hey,
How
Jeff.
many other people are in it?
Just two.
There's two more in it.
One in the back.
You got a 40? All right. Let's have you guys come up from behind then. There's one still.
He's not breathing.
We'll deal with that when we deal with it.
Copy that. I can't see the back seat.
So the back seat possibly has a passenger still moving around. Do we have anybody who has a bunker? My sergeant's come over. Okay. Let's wait till we have one then.
Yep. I'm in no rush. Someone go check on that car, see if they're okay. So he hit that car and crashed through.
3207, if we can still get a bunker to 6030 Catherine.
300. We've got a bunker.
Yes, one in the squad here. 63. Oh, that's too far down. I copy. We got one out of the car, still got two in there. Can't see what the one in the back seat's doing.
I'll be arriving.
You want to bring your 40 up here? Oh, you got it there? No, that's fine. That'll work.
Take back! Well, she did it, Rob.
6030 Catherine with the, if you have the bunker. Okay. That's it? Okay. Well, we see one in the front passenger seat.
Can you guys make sure no one else is in that vehicle?
You guys want to come up from behind? With it? You think so? All right, bring it around then. We can do it. We can bring it around. You stay here. I'm gonna
Copy that.
go back.
White. Buick. Plate status. Expired. 1. State records hit. Hey, Al. Is there another person in the back or no?
No.
It's just the driver right now.
Yeah, that's all I can see.
She didn't say there's anyone else?
She doesn't say there's anyone else. I couldn't really see because she was moving around so much.
Yeah, so you, whoever's hater, you're going to cover through that front window. Okay? And then whoever's on my left, whoever's going to leave from my left, I want you to clear that back seat, okay?
Plate status expired.
Ready? So block that window. We're coming up. We're moving up.
Copy that.
Officer Savosa, in the last 2 seconds of this video, first of all, can you identify the timestamp on this video at this time?
It says 2:10 and 55 seconds, sir.
Okay, and some individuals just walked across the screen, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who are those individuals?
Officers from other agencies.
Okay, and what is going on at this time in the video?
They have stacked up and looks like they had a bunker and a rifle in their approaching the vehicle to clear it.
Okay.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, he's probably not going to make it. What's it? Not shots fired. What's that? Oh, he did? Oh, I didn't yell shots fired.
I got your keys.
Bag. We don't have exit.
Where's he got the shots?
Chest.
Does anybody have, do you have your
I got nothing on the back.
those kits that we just got?
You want to start putting some tape up there?
Yep. Hey folks, you're gonna have to back up, back up. Back up, folks, back up to the end of the block, please. For the white car.
We're going to sit here and watch him struggle with the caution tape for the next 20 minutes.
Could you pause at this time? Officer Salvosa, at this time, 2:14 to 21 seconds, would you agree that the audio cut out?
Yes, sir.
And why did the audio cut out?
Me and Officer Fricky had a private conversation.
And in that private conversation, you're able to mute your camera?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Who can I talk to about more patients? I don't know. Nobody knows anything.
So, female patient in here, that's the...
Do you recognize the individual you're addressing at this time?
That's a North paramedic.
Okay. So is this the first time that you've encountered the paramedics on the scene?
No, an ambulance drew by earlier in the video, and a bunch of them were walking around.
Okay.
Female patient, there was someone in this car. $219. Does anyone know the patient, where the patient of the Subaru is? Is she okay? We have North here. God damn it. What's that? Yeah, let's.
All the way down the path here?
So by the school, I guess, furthest is the school.
So there were shots fired down there?
I don't know. I didn't hear that. It was a traffic stop. They had one with the warrant. As I'm pulling up this way, the car takes off, hits this Subaru and crashes here. He's got a gunshot wound. I didn't fire him, so I have no idea about that. But obviously he's got shot somewhere between there and here. That's all I know.
Do we have anybody else?
No.
I don't know.
So there's a guy that they took into custody, driver, and then the female passenger.
Okay.
So I'm guessing somewhere between there was where the shot was fired. I don't know anything else. Yes, if you would. Start from the school west.
Old people?
Officer Salvosa, do you know who you were addressing at the video at this time, about 216?
It's a Brooklyn Park officer.
Okay, and the information you conveyed, is that at the time that you conveyed that information, what you believed occurred?
Yes.
And subsequent to that, you have learned that some of the information you conveyed to that officer was inaccurate, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They're over here. So North guy's already on them over there. So.
Are we still on the main?
We're still on the main.
I don't know if we need to move it to attack channel, but.
Hey, you guys are.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
I'm okay.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
You'd agree again, I hear at 217, you've put it on mute?
Yes, sir.
By this time at 217 and 30 seconds, have you ascertained the status of Mr. Wright?
I believe so.
And what was that? That he was deceased by this time, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, when you look at the view here at 217 and 50 seconds, do you see something different with where Mr. Wright's body was located?
Yes, sir.
And what's that?
His body's been covered up with a sheet.
Do you know the name of that officer right there in front of you?
That is Officer Jeff Summers, sir.
From the Brooklyn Center Police Department?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the video is concluded at 2:19. Just have a couple other things I want to show you, Officer Salvosa. Are you aware that other officers at the scene were wearing body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
And those cameras captured footage of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And prior to today, you've had an opportunity to review 5 still images from those body-worn camera videos?
Yes, sir.
And they show you captured at different events that you've discussed in your testimony today?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this time, the state will seek to admit exhibits 40 through 44, still images showing Officer Salvosa.
Okay, no, if there being no objections, 40 to 46 will be admitted into evidence and you may publish them.
Yep, and Your Honor, if I misspoke, I said I meant 40 to 44.
40 to 44, thank you.
Officer Salvosi, you testified earlier that you carried a medical bag to an officer. Could we show Exhibit 40? Do you see yourself carrying those medical bags in the middle of Exhibit 40?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then quickly to Exhibit 41. What of the two bags, what are each of those? What's contained in each of those bags?
So in my left hand, the black and yellow bag would be an AED or defibrillator. In my right hand, the orange bag would be a medical bag with oxygen, bandages, airways, and different things we might use.
And do you remember the name of the officer to whom you gave those bags?
I do not, sir.
Would it have been Officer Summers, perhaps?
Possibly, sir. I'd have to check.
Okay. And you testified earlier that you spoke to Mr. Wright's parents. Could you please put up Exhibit 42? I'm showing you a third image. Do you see yourself in that image?
Yes, sir. I would be the officer kneeling.
And the two individuals you identified as Mr. Wright's parents are the ones seated in the retaining wall?
Yes, sir.
Do you know the name of the other officer who's standing behind you?
That'd be Officer Jeff Summers, sir.
Okay. And now Exhibit 43. And would you agree that this still image is from 2:36 and 55 seconds p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And what is shown in this image?
Me having a conversation with Mrs. Wright.
You testified that Sergeant Lorenz asked Officer Irish to escort you to the Brooklyn Center Police Department. I'd like to show Exhibit 44. Could you describe what you see in this image?
That is me, and then that is Officer Irish to the left of the screen.
Okay, just to be clear, to the left of the screen is Officer Irish?
Yes, sir.
And then the other individual, that's you?
Yes, sir.
In there? Okay. And you'd agree that is about 2:48 and 19 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Was this image shortly before you left the scene?
Yes, sir.
Right. And then you completed no further work on the case, correct?
Yes, sir.
No further questions for this witness.
Is there any cause? Yes.
Officer Salvosa, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir.
I'm a lawyer for Kim Potter. You know who she is?
Yes, sir.
She was one of your fellow police officers at Brooklyn Center. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And next to her is Paul Eng, and I believe you've talked to him, have you not, or not?
Possibly. I can't remember, sir.
All right.
I apologize.
In any event, you heard over the radio on this day, April 11th, that Officer Lucky was doing a traffic stop, correct?
Yes, sir.
And was he in this working in Brooklyn Center as you were on that day?
Yes, sir.
And did you know at that time that Officer Lucky's FTO was Miss Potter?
Yes, sir.
And after you heard that he was doing a traffic stop, did you also hear that Sergeant Johnson was going to follow up on it?
I believe so, sir. Yes, sir.
And you decided to drive over that way from where you were at just to see what was going on. Is that fair?
And to assist if I could, sir.
Yes. And you did that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so at that point in time when you're driving down that street, the street is, what is the street again?
63rd Avenue.
63rd Avenue. You're going west or east?
West, sir.
You were going west. You were headed towards the traffic stop where you believed that Sergeant Johnson, Officer Potter, and Officer Lucky were there. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And when you were driving west down that road, you saw a white car from the area of the traffic stop, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you saw that car drive at a high rate of speed right towards the car in front of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you saw that for about a block. Would that be fair?
Yes, sir.
And then you saw that vehicle, the white vehicle, go over the boulevard and smash head-on right into that Subaru, correct?
Yes, sir.
So at that point in time, when you stopped your car, you had the knowledge of the traffic stop, 3 officers there, and this fellow, or this car, you saw take off towards you at a high rate of speed from the traffic stop, go over a lane and hit a car head-on in your city, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did that alarm you at all?
Very much, sir.
And is that why you drew your gun and said, show me your hands or get out of the vehicle? Was that the reason?
Yes, sir.
Were you trained to do what exactly you did there, sir?
Yes, sir.
And when you kept saying, what were you saying when you had your gun pointed? You wanted him to get out of the car, correct?
Yes, sir. I believe it was put your hands up, put your hands up. At one point, I believe I said, get out of the car so we can help him.
And this was a car that you could not see in the back seat, correct?
Yes, sir.
And all you could see, if anything, would be the waving of the hands of the passenger, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the passenger was not following your orders, correct?
Yes, sir.
For a period of time that we watched the video, correct?
Yes, sir.
And finally, she did get out of the car, correct?
Yes, sir.
And after that, you were able to get the driver out of the car, and we saw at the end of that video that the police officers, the ER, what are they called, the emergency doctors or
paramedics, sir.
Paramedics, thank you. The paramedics were working on Dante Wright. You brought yourself over to help them, and was that what you were trained to do?
Yes, sir. I believe my medic bag arrived first before the paramedics were even there.
Okay. And before the paramedics arrived, were other officers working on Dante Wright?
Yes, sir.
And what were they doing?
Assessing his injuries, trying to figure out how best to treat his injuries and save his life, sir.
Trying to save his life, correct?
Yes, sir.
To revive him, correct?
Yes, sir.
So all in all, after you're on the scene, was it approximately 15, 20 minutes? I'll withdraw that. When did you first learn that this was an officer-involved shooting?
I don't know exactly. It would be much later.
Okay, how much later? Do you remember? Was it after you left the scene of the traffic accident?
It would be before that, shortly before that, I think when, starting to piece together, obviously, when we were able to find out that obviously he had been shot, and I believe I was talking to one of the cops and said, he got shot, he's shot, and it happened between there and here. So.
Okay. We have a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
We'll be going to lunch like any minute now. As soon as they're done with their cross-examination, I'm sure they'll let us go. I'll do a recap and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance before we break for lunch.
Did you see movement of the driver at all in the beginning?
Can you clarify in the beginning of what part, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. When you first arrived, when you saw the accident, you saw the car coming towards, and by the way, if that Subaru wasn't in front of you, that car probably would have hit you, is that right? He was there, he saw it, Your Honor.
Well, the objection is sustained.
All right. In any event, when you stopped your vehicle and you had your gun there, did you see movement of the driver?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that would be indicating that at that point in time, the driver was still alive, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Judge.
Right. Is there any redirect?
Officers, Officer Salvosa, when did you get the first hint that this was an officer-involved shooting?
Probably shortly after they had taken him out of the car and piecing it together. As far as officially, not until they told me that I was a witness.
Sure.
And had to be...
Yeah, less than official. Did you talk to any witnesses that caused you to believe that it was an officer-involved shooting?
I did not talk to any witnesses that led me to believe it was an officer-involved shooting, no.
Not Katie Bryant?
I did talk to Katie Bryant, yes. She did say that she believed her son was shot.
Shot by whom?
A police officer.
Could you describe the movement?
This is hearsay, Your Honor. It's also outside the scope of the cross-examination.
I don't know what your question was. I mean, what is your question?
He's answered my question, Your Honor.
Okay.
Officer Salvosa, I think I just needed some clarity. What movement of the driver, Mr. Wright, did you actually see when you were holding him at gunpoint?
It's hard to say, but kind of he was moving back and forth and kind of rocking a little bit. It's hard to say specifically because it was obstructed by the passenger, but there was kind of movement of this back and forth a little bit.
Okay, no further questions.
Okay. Thank you, officer. You may step down. Okay, members of the jury, we are going to take a lunch break and we'll get started up at 1:30.
I'm telling you, the judge looks faded. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. I was off in La La Land. All right, everyone, we are going to get ready to break for lunch. We have an hour lunch break, but before we do that, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So basically, for everyone that was asking, I let you guys know I would do a recap.
Counsel, you'll alert me when the autopsy photos are going to be shown, okay? So we can alert Court TV.
Witness, there will be maybe we can speak off the record.
It'll be what?
Perhaps we can speak off the record. I'll give the court counsel notice as to
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Animated adventure. No, I did not order lunch. I wish I did. I'm starving. I don't. Probably just get a drink of Monster for lunch. Anyways, so recap. This is the Kim Potter trial. Kim Potter is an officer, or was an officer. She was involved in a regular traffic stop. Found out the driver, Dante Wright, had a warrant for his arrest. They attempted to arrest him. He somewhat resisted. While resisting, she was threatening to hit him with the taser. She yelled, "Taser, taser, taser," and then shot him with a Glock. One time, I believe it was just one shot. Panicked immediately, displayed that it was an accident, became frantic. After Dante was shot, the car pulled forward, went down the road, crossed the median, hit the Subaru vehicle that had the two elderly people in it, and then obviously stopped in the yard. And then we're just hearing witness testimony of all of that. It's not really a question of whether or not the officer shot Dante Wright and killed him. They're more or less trying to figure out, was it intentional? Was it an accident? Whatever, and figure out some way to charge her. So that is the recap, the best I can put it. So let's get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're new here, please subscribe or follow on whichever platform you're currently watching right now in order to be connected to my channel and help it grow. It also tells the algorithm to bring in new viewers to potentially see what's going on around them. Let's get ready for the pledge. All right, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you beautiful hooligans. We're going to break for 55 minutes, and we will be back after the lunch. Make sure you guys get something to drink, get some snacks, maybe a beer for later. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll run and go get a beer so we can have some cheers and beers later at the end of the trial. But I hope to see you guys in an hour. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.